Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Ariel Helwani Show!
Back in your life on this Tuesday, February 4th, 2025. Hello again, everyone. I sure hope you're doing well. It's great to be back on a lovely Tuesday. And you know we love Tuesdays around these parts. Why? Because we play two on Tuesdays. Yes, AH show, usual time, 1 p.m. Eastern, 10 in the West, 6 across the pond. And then at 5 Eastern over on the DAZN Boxing Channel, it's another episode of Ariel and Ade. This time, the great Frank Warren joining Ade Oladipo and I. Yes, things are getting very spicy. Things are getting very interesting in the world of boxing, my friends. I don't know why I'm leaning over like this. I'm just so excited, revved and ready to go. There's so much to discuss following a very interesting Monday program around these parts. How about Joe Hendry in studio? Yes, I believe in Joe Hendry. I believe in Joe Hendry. I'm still lamenting the fact, if I'm being 100% honest, about why and how I screwed up the twist, the turn, the point, the look. I feel like I botched it. I had an opportunity, as I said, to paint with Picasso, and I feel like I botched it. And I've been watching the clip over and over and over again. I went to my son's basketball game after the show, and I was just fixated on it. I was like, how did I screw this up? I believe, in case you missed it, we do have the visual evidence of myself screwing things up with Joe Hendry. Joe Hendry, of course, as you know, the wrestling sensation. Everyone's talking about him. Everyone has fallen in love with him. He makes his debut in WWE at the Royal Rumble. He's the TNA champ. What a time in the wrestling biz. And I asked him at the very end, can he do the turn, point, smile for us in person? What a great honor. He says, do it with me. And quite frankly, I feel like I buckled under the pressure. Here it is, in case you missed it. We can watch it together.
We're here.
I mean, okay, first of all, what's going on with my pants? I mean, I like to be cozy, but look at the pants. What's happening over here? I mean, it's a little too short. Why didn't anyone tell me this? I mean, the De La Souls are cool, but look at me. I'm all...
Are they riding up, or are they just that short?
No, they're riding up and short. You know, they're like those...
Back of the shirt a little bit wrinkled. You've been sitting for a while.
I've been sitting. Why didn't anyone tell me this is not exactly the most flattering look? Look at him. He's crisp. He's clean.
They look tucked. It looks like you have them tucked to me.
Yeah, I might have.
Joe looks great. Joe looks great.
I mean, Joe looks fantastic. And you know what? In this moment, can we just pause for a second? In this moment, okay, first of all, in this moment right here, I'm worried about, the only thing I'm thinking about in this moment, can I be honest with you guys, is Frank. Well, no, please, keep it there. It's Frank. I'm worried that Frank is going to be mad. I'm worried that I'm going to get attitude from him. Oh, you weren't talking into the microphone. Oh my God, we need to get like hanging mics. So I'm completely off my game. I'm thinking about something else. Then, as you can tell, look at his legs. Look at his legs versus my legs. I'm completely off balance. I'm twisting and turning. He is as smooth, as upright as can be. Also, I'm way too excited.
Yeah, so a little bit flamboyant, the mouth agape.
Yeah.
You also gunned it where he just
Gunned
pointed.
it. Thank you.
It's tough. It's a tough scene here.
Look at this.
The back leg is almost like a bowler's stance.
Why are the legs not moving? Why are the legs stationary?
I don't know.
He's turning, and you're just pivoting your upper body. Why are the legs not moving?
Honestly, I feel like I need another shot. I feel like I botched it so badly. Is there more, or was that it? Was that the one? There's more.
There's more.
Can we see the rest here? Because look,
Also, we have to acknowledge your base completely folded on.
I've got nothing. Okay, now look at his feet compared to my feet. Look at his legs compared to my legs. I mean, you know, he does this on a weekly basis. I've never done it under the lights, first time NBD. But look at this. 3, 2, 1. What the hell? Look at his legs.
Yeah, they turn.
Gunned it again. Even on try 2, you gave him the gun. Mouth completely open.
Yeah.
A fly could have just gone right in there.
I mean, look, we're proud of you for even trying. We're proud of you for even giving it a go.
GG?
Yeah, GG, but that's about all we
What's
can
GG?
say.
GG's good game. It's just like an acknowledgement, like, you know,
It's a wrap, though. It's a wrap.
Yeah, it also does.
He smoked
I noticed the pants. The pants, yesterday you posted one picture and you were like, oh, look at my pants. And then there was a series of them.
Yeah, well, it was
the
Carolina.
pants are a real issue.
Well, here's the thing. I like those pants because I like to be toasty. In fact, we have now put in a heater in the studio because I want it to be extra toasty. I'm still thinking about the time Aljamain Sterling walked into my studio and his mouth was like quivering because he said it was cold. You know,
I feel like that's the legend of that one has grown.
Oh, he was
now
like,
it's like Aljamain came in a parka and got
and that's not my studio.
Got frostbite. Yeah, I feel like we've exaggerated that one.
Historically, people talk about David Letterman's studio being too cold. I want the story of my studio to be that it's too hot. I like it hot. I like it.
I went to Ariel's and I was just sweating my ass off. It was so hot in there.
That's what I want.
Balmy.
I want that.
I brought somebody in this morning to see it, and I can confirm it's a sweltering jungle.
That's what I want. Shout out to Alan Murphy who stopped by. Legend.
Shout out to Alan Murphy.
Massive part of the team visiting us. Did have some interesting things to say about Blanchardstown. We'll keep that between us, of course. He represents.
He's from Lucan. He's only 10 minutes down the road.
Yeah,
he said right by Pizza.
Yeah,
but I would never associate myself with Blanchardstown. I think we're the exact
Lucan. It's actually where Conor McGregor moved to when he was 13 as well. To Lucan.
He said you'd say this.
Yeah, he did say that. Anyway, back to the moment. Fixated on it. Botched it. Fumbled. Some might say. Need another shot. But I am delighted with Joe Henry and everything he brought to the table. And I just want to say, if you are wondering who I am blaming for this, it is Frank. Frank, you were all I was thinking of.
That's fucking bullshit.
And in fact,
are pants pajamas? Are they pajama bottoms?
No, they're
joggers.
No, they're just good stuff.
I just want to remind you, when you do these things, like, you're representing all of us.
Yeah.
So they're actual just normal pants and they got stuck.
Yeah, I'm very confused about the pants.
Sometimes I'll rock the joggers, and if I sit for too long, they kind of ride up and like.
Okay, enough of this, guys. Some breaking news. We have some breaking news.
Okay. Oh my god.
Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you there. That was a little bit rude. But breaking news just announced: KSI versus Dillon Danis is actually happening.
Whoa.
Misfits Boxing 21, March 29th. In Manchester. They're running it back. Remember 2 years ago they were supposed to do this? Actually, was it a year ago?
No.
It was two now, right?
Yeah, it was early 2023 because it ended up being Danis Paul.
There it is. At the AO Arena in Manchester, they are making it happen. JJ versus DD. KSI versus Dillon Danis. Unfinished business.
Scarface kind of.
Yeah,
I was thinking Scarface too. Do we think this actually happens?
No.
The one we've all been waiting for, man.
All right. Pizzi stamped it.
Wait, who said no there? Was it Pizzi?
Me, yeah.
You're calling cap?
Well, I mean, there's always an issue, wasn't there? But wasn't that what happened the first time? Like there was
a lot of people. I remember when they announced it. I think they were in Austin, Texas. We were doing the show, and I think I put the line at like, I don't know, -1,000 that it doesn't happen, right? And then remember, he came in studio. That was our big reunion. And then it was like a week later that it didn't happen. I am going to go out and say, I'm putting it at -1,000. It does happen. And I'll tell you why.
Wow.
I'll tell you why. It's quite simple. Dillon needs this. The Logan Paul fight was a disaster. It was a very poor showing. I don't think, look, I have a lot of respect for KSI. I have a lot of respect for Mams. They don't go back to the well. You know, the first time it's fool me once, shame on you, fool me twice, shame on me, right? They don't go back to the well unless they're 100% confident that this fight happens, in my opinion. And so I think they have all the assurances in the world. I think Dillon needs it. I think he doesn't think that his shit don't stink as much now as it did back then. And yeah, I think it happens. My question is, let's just say it does happen. Let's not have the conversation about whether it happens or not. What is the level of interest? Because you could make the case, Pizzi, that after the showing against Logan Paul, the interest has dwindled, right? There was some type of intrigue in seeing him box because he talked so much shit, but because it didn't quite deliver, right? It was very one-sided. There was no activity. There was no offense on his end. I think a lot of that interest went out the window. It has been a year and a half since. Do you think this will be a big-time show? Do you think this will be in high demand?
Look, you have to, I'm not going to say you have to give him credit, but Dillon made a lot of noise before the Logan Paul fight. He doesn't deserve credit for the way he went about attacking his missus, I don't think. But it did make it a spectacle. It made people pay attention to it, and I wouldn't put it past Dillon to do something like that again. The only issue I see is if he puts a performance up like that, it's like what do you do with him at that point? You know, if he lays another egg, like that wasn't a good contest to watch. You know, he still gets dragged about it online as far as I can see. So if he was to put up another performance like that, I don't expect him to win the fight, but I certainly think he needs to put a better foot forward if he wants to continue in this world, because that seems to be the one that he's occupied by now rather than MMA or jiu-jitsu, where he was a brilliant talent at one stage.
GC, what's the line? What's the line?
I mean, I don't see one out yet.
No. I'm saying you're the odds maker.
You'd have to say KSI is a favorite after the performance he put up against Logan Paul. I mean, Logan Paul was a massive favorite in that one. I mean, KSI around the same, -400, -500.
Yeah.
I mean, just going off of the one appearance we've seen from Dillon, you'd have to think he's going to be a big favorite. And honestly, going back to the Logan one, you said credit to him for drumming up, a lot of excitement around him and talking all that shit. You can't argue the engagement numbers he was getting on Twitter, and it felt like every single day he was putting out stuff and it was getting tens of thousands of likes. I don't know if he's going to be able to recreate it. I don't know if there's the storyline that he's going to be able to go after like he did with Logan with KSI. And so if he can't drum up as much excitement and he puts on a similar performance, I don't know if anyone's going to have much interest in boxing after that.
There's also something to be said for the fact that he is still involved in this lawsuit. Another reason why he can't pull out, probably, right? He probably
can't pull out and probably isn't going to share the same tactics that he used to drum up the Logan Paul thing.
You know what was the first thing I thought of when I heard about this? By the way, I'm actually embarrassed to say I don't remember the name of the football player that pulled out of the KSI fight.
Wayne Bridge.
Wayne Bridge,
yes.
Shout out.
Wayne Bridge pulled out because it got too personal, right?
Yeah.
In that moment, like the first thing. Does Dillon then say, all right, let me hit you with your own kind of offense, two can play at that game, and use that as the green light, so to speak, to then get personal as well?
It would make sense, and he probably should, as long as he doesn't cross the line, right?
What line? This dude, KSI was on the microphone.
I think they want them to do it.
Yeah, KSI was on the microphone in a packed arena talking about this guy's family history.
Sorry. By cross the line, I mean get yourself into a lawsuit because you've I should be very clear here. Yeah. When I say cross the line, I don't mean like, oh, that trash talk hurt my feelings. I mean literally do things that are legally dubious that will get you into a lawsuit that you have to settle and then take a fight against KSI to pay for.
Yeah.
That's what I mean by crossing the line. As long as you don't cross that line and then the money that you're using from this fight to pay for that lawsuit then has to go toward the next lawsuit, then you're probably in okay shape.
I think he keeps it more legal with the trash talk, but I know Dillon will talk a lot of trash leading up to this and build the fight.
185 pounds, by the way, pro fight. So let's see, March 29th. That just came out literally minutes ago. I'd love to have a face-to-face.
All right.
Bring him in.
We got some time.
I mean, we don't actually. I mean, that's in a month and a half, a month and change, a month and 25 days.
Yeah, it's like 6 weeks away.
It's pretty quick, I would say. No, I mean,
big time in the UK for combat sports. UFC London, then Danis.
Oh, that's right. A week later, right?
Yeah, it's big stuff. Might just have to go out for 2 weeks.
Just got the whole thing. Just stay over there. Do the show from out there. Why not? We'll talk to our friends at DAZN.
I might just rent a property in Manchester.
Imagine, by the way,
Manchester's the beast, man. It's such a great city.
I love it.
Manchester has become like the fight capital of the UK in many respects. They just had. They're going to have the Jack Catterall fight over there next week. We had them on a couple of weeks ago. There was the other Misfits card. There's another one that just happened. Oh, I think Derek Chisora is there this weekend. Yep, against Otto Wallin. There's this one. Obviously, the Leon Edwards fight is in London. So a lot of things going on in the world of boxing, as I said at the top. Let me tell you about today's program. In about 45 minutes' time, we're going to be joined by Chael P. Sonnen. Yeah, too much fun. What's that sound? It got too much money and you can't do them. An old school Ariel and the Bad Guy reunion on this Choo Choo Tuesday afternoon. Sometimes when you get some guests and you just need one. And after 5 and 2 in studio yesterday, we're rolling with 1. But there's a lot that we need to talk about in between now and 2 o'clock when Chael joins us and in the aftermath of the Chael interview, because a lot going on in the world of combat sports. And I felt like I had to wedge a lot into the first hour of yesterday's show before we got into all the guests. First things first, Dillon Danis, KSI, out of the way. We could talk more about that in the days and weeks to come. I have confirmed that Jairzinho Rozenstruik has in fact been released from the UFC or by the UFC. I believe this was first reported by Alex Buchanan. Did I get that right, GC? You're the name guy now.
Yeah, Buchanan.
Buchanan, golly. I believe he first reported it, yes?
Yeah, I saw the roster watch tweeted it, and then he said he could confirm it.
That's right. And so I have done the same, and a little bit of a surprise. Obviously, it was very clear that Dana White was not a fan of that fight against Sergey Pavlovich, and you have to understand, if you're coming off a loss, it's a lot easier to release someone, especially when it's just like performance-based as opposed to coming off a win. So you may be asking yourself, why doesn't Sergey Pavlovich, get the pink slip? When you're coming off a win, you can't be released unless you do something that would be deemed, I don't know, criminal or hate speech or no, I don't know. There's really nothing. There is no line. But the point is, that's why one guy gets the release and the other one doesn't. There you see the stats: 9-6 in the UFC, 3-4 in his last 7 fights. Obviously not a stellar record. It is amazing. And I think it was Jedi that tweeted this yesterday. It is amazing. Was it Jedi? It was someone. I apologize for not remembering their name. Like, the fact that we never got Rozenstruik versus Derek Lewis is very surprising. Now that he's out of the UFC, but very, very clearly Dana White did not like that fight, and I understand that was part of the decision as well. Is anyone surprised that they actually released him? What do you guys think? Anyone shocked by this?
I don't know. He was like 3-2 in his last 5, I think. I get it wasn't the best performance ever, but kind of felt like he had been around the scene for a while. You would have just kept him around, especially in a division that's so shallow.
Yeah, and a guy that, he had won his last 2 going into this fight, beat Tai Tuivasa, beat Shamil Gaziev via TKO.
Like a beat down on Shamil.
Yeah, he had to retire, meaning, after the 4th round, TKO via retirement. Lost to Jalton Almeida on ABC, beat Chris Dawkins, lost to Volkov and Blades, beat Augusto Sakai. I mean, you're coming off 2 in a row, and then you lose 1, bit of a stinker against Sergey Pavlovich, and you get the boot. That's a tough pill to swallow.
To me, it smells of maybe his purse was too high for the level of output that they feel like, the return on investment that they feel like they were getting, right? If you put somebody else in there who's a lower ranked, not as good fighter, but they cost 1/10 the amount, then it's better business for the UFC.
A lot of this is cost related. You're going to start, we see them parting ways with Holly Holm, and there are others to come as well. The ones who don't necessarily move the needle, but are, known commodities, so to speak, who have been around for several years and who cost a pretty penny, you're starting to see the UFC realize that, quite frankly, bringing in the Contender Series guys, populating the card. I mean, look at 312. Is there any greater example than that? Look at that card. Dana White used to say all the time, we're not boxing. We don't make top-heavy cards. Are they making top-heavy cards now? I would say so. For the most part. There are some that, 300 is an anomaly. There are others that kind of, international fight week an anomaly, but week in and week out, it's very top heavy. Does anyone disagree with that?
No, especially this week.
That's how this goes. It's Contender Series filling out all their cards at this point.
If I'm not mistaken, 7 debutantes on this on this card this weekend, pay-per-view.
Wow.
Yeah, no, it's I mean, I said it somewhat jokingly on Saturday, low key, the Saudi Arabia card better than the 312 pay-per-view card. I should have really said high key, right?
Yeah, there's nothing low key about it.
Yeah.
There are 4 ranked fighters on the card this weekend, and all 4 are in the main and co-main.
That's wild. DDP Strickland, Zhang Weili, Tatiana Suarez, and then it goes down to Taliesin Teixeira and Justin Tafa.
Taliesin debuting.
Jimmy Crute against Adolfo Bellato. Jake Matthews against Francisco Prado. That's the pay-per-view.
It's tough.
It's kind of this the Contender Series and how prominent it is, and they've done a great job with it. It's kind of taken away from the regional scenes as well. I feel like the feeder leagues where you used to have guys growing considerable fan bases before they get to the UFC. I feel like they're rushed along the Contender Series a lot quicker than they used to be, and obviously you can stumble there, and then you're back on the regional scene. But it does feel as though like we used to have a lot more buzzy kind of fighters around Europe and thereabouts who now don't really get to build their brand as much and just go straight to contender series. It feels like, I don't know, it's nearly the contender series is taking the place of the regional scene to some. I think that was their plan, right? Like I think they've made that the kind of the last dance of the regional scene for these guys, and I think that's had implications on the feeder leagues.
And by the way, in case you're wondering, 313 at the moment, which is really just a month away, March 8th. Remember, February is a short month. This year ends on the 28th. Pereira, Ankalaev, tremendous. Gaethje, Hooker, tremendous. But then, Lemos, Lucindo, Bruno Ferreira, Armin Petrosian, Ozzy Diaz, Jordan Santos, Alex Morono, Carlos Leal, Myron Santos, Francis Marshall, Bruno Silva, Joshua. I mean, this is tough. This is a pay-per-view. Chris Gutierrez against John Matsumoto. King Green against Mauricio Huffy. Okay, one.
I'm wondering how they fill out that main card. I think you could put King Green and Huffy, but you need one more fight on that main card.
I mean, the clock is ticking, month away. But yes, so it seems like you're going to get 2, maybe 3 really good ones, and then the rest is, a lot of up and comers. And fighting in the UFC, it's always cyclical. There's always high moments and low moments. And so yesterday on the program, I'm talking about, is there a superstar shortage? And I saw some people agree, and I saw some people not agree. And I saw some people say, like, did you forget about, Ilia Topuria? Did you forget about Islam Makhachev? By the way, I didn't say there are no superstars. I just said there's a shortage. And I said that a lot of the guys who were superstars not that long ago, 2, 3, 4, 5 years ago, are no longer at the top of the bill, are no longer in the mix, are no longer champions, are no longer able to headline pay-per-views. And I stand by that. Ilia Topuria is well on his way to becoming a superstar, and certainly in Spain, a very, very well-known commodity. In Georgia, in Europe, a well-known commodity. But, he's defended his title once. So what happens if he slips and falls against Alex Volkanovski? Or if he fights Islam and slips and falls? Who knows? And then you get into the Pereiras of the world. He's up there in age, 37. Islam is Islam. Great. But you need more than 1, 2, or 3. Usually there was a time where like 1 through 8 in the top 10 pound for pound were superstars, or 1 through 5 were superstars. PT, you agree or disagree with my take on the quote unquote shortage of superstars?
Absolutely, yeah. And considering the amount of cards they're putting on, like that's what makes you feel that void a lot more. I don't know. Like, I mean, even I feel like at the start of every year we're trying to forecast who's going to break through, because not because like it's a fun topic as much as because like they kind of need it. And then we have Peyton Talbot. I picked Benoit Saint-Denis last year. I've had a horrible run picking these new stars to break out. But yeah, it isn't impacting them right now, but it's something that could further down the line. Like the UFC is untouchable right now; they're absolutely killing it. But you think that would kind of start affecting pay-per-view numbers, things like that, when, as you say, it's 3 or 4 guys and you have to pack out, however many, 14, 15 a year. That's when it becomes difficult.
If the pay-per-view model has a floor where a broadcast partner is willing to pay for it, you're not really incentivized to have superstars anymore. Like the same way they're incentivized to fill out the card with replacement filler talent off contender series, whether they win, lose, look good. It seems like every time there's a contender series episode, Dana White's signing everybody at this point just so they have people to fill out the rest of these cards. There's no incentive, right? If the growth on a super successful pay-per-view is not as high as it once was, and you're getting that minimum guarantee anyway, you're incentivized just to continue to do shows and fill it out with just enough for people to be interested and intrigued to buy the pay-per-view, but not too much, in fact, because you need to save the rest of that talent for the rest of the year with this very aggressive schedule. I actually think I'd point to something that you've said many times, and you point to the words of Joe Silva in terms of creating contenders and challengers for the champions. That's where I think the UFC has its biggest hole, is the reason that these guys became superstars, the reason that these guys and gals became superstars is because there's matchups that we wanted to see them in. There were matchups that we went, I absolutely need to see this champion defend their belt against this challenger, or I absolutely need to see these two fight. And I feel like we're we're at a low point for that. There's not a lot of matchups that I'm going, okay, I need to see this person. I need to see them defend against the number 2 guy and the number 3 guy. And that lack of credible opponents is what I think is preventing people from becoming superstars. If there were 5 guys lined up for Ilia Topuria to face, then we would have a kind of magical run for him to go through the gauntlet and then become this long-reigning champion. I actually feel it's not the fighters at the top. It's actually the contenders that I think are lacking, and we're not building them properly anymore due to the aggressive schedule, the flimsy nature of how these fights get made, and kind of being based on travel schedule on where the fighters are located, or where the fights where they're getting the biggest site fees and things like that. So it's an issue, but I think it actually comes from there's just not people that are proper foils to make these people into superstars.
Here's, in my opinion, the brilliance of it all. The brilliance of it all is the UFC as a brand couldn't be hotter. You can make a very strong case that Dana White has never been more popular, and we all lived and we're covering the sport when he's showing up in the t-shirt and the ripped jeans in 07, 08, 09, and he's dropping F-bombs, and he's so fresh and different than what you would see from other heads of sport. I've always said that this analogy is inaccurate, comparing him to Goodell or Silver. He's not a commissioner, but he is viewed and treated as such. But now he is so popular, he has been able to use whatever happened and the decision to go forward during the pandemic to his benefit, his relationship with Donald Trump. All these factors have made him into a cult-like figure. And I would argue he's never been more popular. I would argue the UFC has never been more popular. And they are showing that they don't necessarily need to rely on these stars and draws, because I'm talking to kids younger than ever asking me questions about the UFC, asking me questions about Merab, another name that we should mention as a potential star down the line, the Yiris, the Pereiras, et cetera, et cetera. And it's a fascinating thing to watch because you see him there doing mainstream press. Tucker Carlson, Piers Morgan, these clips coming out yesterday. He did these interviews in Riyadh, and I'm still not quite sure why Piers and Tucker were in Riyadh doing these interviews with Dana, but whatever, it doesn't really matter. The point is, he's not going on these quote unquote mainstream shows, if you want to call those that, defending his company, talking about his ideas, his growth plans, their expansion, all this stuff. He's out there as Dana White, bastion of free speech, thought leader, moral compass, all this stuff. He has expanded outside of the typical role of promoter that a Frank Warren or an Eddie Hearn or a Bob Arum or a Vince McMahon back in the day. No one would have these people on to talk about these things for the most part. He is now there, sitting there as these journalists are coming up to him and asking him these questions and being like, please tell us, impart your wisdom on us. How should we live? How should we run our lives? How should we run our companies? How should we treat others? How should we treat our employees? Et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, which just goes to show that this is the bat signal to everyone who believes in these ideologies, everyone who believes in this type of thinking and living, to be like, this is the place for you. These other places aren't the place for you. And so he has been able to turn himself into a superstar, which was always the plan, and which they've done consistently very well since, the early 2000s, turn the brand into this symbol for all these things that he preaches and stands for. And in turn, these people out there, and Lord knows there's a lot of them, a vast majority of them who say, this is the place for me. This is the sport for me. This is the outlet for me. This is where I feel most comfortable. This is where I feel most aligned. And it's brilliant because you don't have to pay millions and millions and millions of dollars to put on fights. Just put out the bat signal and say, this is the place where you can be welcome. This is the place where like-minded people can come and celebrate and watch sport without these restrictions and shackles and things like that. And it's a wild thing to watch. It's a fascinating thing to watch because that's exactly what he's doing. He's not sitting there talking about the sport, the business. He's sitting there talking about everything except the sport. And then when asked about things, that don't really pertain to politics or these outside things, he always brings it back. He starts talking about COVID and how the media tried to stop him and how he overcame the odds and all this stuff. And it's an amazing package that gets people to rally, who don't know the truth, who are just kind of being conned in front of their eyes, drinking this all up, this is the place to be. And so it actually ties into the superstar shortage discussion, because you don't have to invest as much. What Rick said about the pay-per-views is 100% right, but you don't have to invest as much into these stars, into these people, because the brand is the star. He is the star. What they represent is the selling point. Now, they're about to get a new contract, and it's going to be worth billions and billions of dollars. There is no doubt in my mind that they are going to take a massive step up, not a step back. They are going to crush it with this new contract, because they have done a great job of packaging it all. The one I'm curious about is the next one, not this one coming up, the one after that, because this formula could only last for so long. It's going to last now, and it's going to prove to be right, and it's going to be fantastic. But I'm curious about the next one, because if you stay on this trajectory, if you stay on this path of not necessarily building stars, the next time around, the next go around, and maybe that's in 10 years, and maybe maybe we're all dead by the time it happens. I don't know. It's going to get, in my opinion, interesting, because at some point you do need superstars. At some point you do need draws. I don't know. I find all of this to be fascinating.
So this is basically a consequence. This is a plan they put in place. Like, I mean, for years we talked about during McGregor's ascent, they're never going to let someone get this big again. Mayweather, all this stuff, even though it was great business for them, they made a lot of money, they kind of lost McGregor as a star at that point. So we kind of said, so you're saying basically they probably put this plan, kind of revved it up a bit around then, maybe, Ariel, because they were like, we can't let a guy like McGregor get bigger than the brand, which definitely happened.
I don't think they're suppressing stardom. I think they have created a model in which stardom is not the main thing. That is not the goal, yes. Right? In the previous era, the UFC had to scrape and claw for relevance. They had to go, okay, we've got Ronda Rousey. Please pay attention to Ronda Rousey. We've got Conor McGregor. Please pay attention to Conor McGregor. We need you to pay attention to this. And then it can elevate the rest of the brand. It can elevate the UFC. It can take MMA into the mainstream. They no longer need that. And the model now is, how many hours of television can they churn out that ESPN is interested in? Potentially Netflix, Amazon, all these broadcast partners. They don't particularly care about who's in that main event as long as the UFC tells them it's a good fight. We see this with ESPN, right? How many times do we go, is this a good card? Do you ever hear ESPN publicly come out and be like, we didn't think that card was good, this card was good? As long as they're getting their hours of television, as long as they're meeting their thresholds, as long as they're putting on events and the viewers are turning up, I don't think they're particularly motivated or interested in how that sausage gets made, as long as the UFC keeps churning it out. And so the model is different. I don't think it's like a suppression of, we don't want another Conor. They would love another Conor. They would love another star like that, because it would mean more hours of television and more viewers. But the model is not geared toward creating that person anymore. Alex Pereira is kind of like an example of somebody who did it just by hook or crook and like found way to break through by continuing to win and continuing to knock people out. But it was not in the era of McGregor where he had the force of the promotion behind him because they were scratching and clawing for that relevance. He just arose through the system.
They certainly learned lessons from the McGregor era, and I agree with you, Rick. They're not trying to suppress anyone, but again, you see Taporia say, like, I'm done with 155, or sorry, 45. I'm going up to 55, which is the exact playbook that Conor did, right? He beat Aldo, and they did it. Now, Conor had incredible timing, because in 2016 they were selling the company, and they needed big bucks, right? They needed blockbusters, and so, what's the first pay-per-view? The first major pay-per-view post-sale is Conor Diaz. A few months later, it's New York. Conor's back on that one. A few months after that, it's Mayweather. Conor's involved in that one. It is going to take a huge, like a seismic shift in their business or something to happen to where they give someone else that type of leeway, that kind of rope. And so I agree they're not trying to suppress, but they're just not going to give in as easily, because quite frankly, they don't have to, because they're killing it right now. And so several things had to happen. To be successful, you have to be lucky and you have to be good. And they have always been good promoters, but they were also lucky. The pandemic was the greatest thing to ever happen to them. But the timing of the pandemic happening with their arrival on ESPN, with the rise of online betting, all these things coming together put them on a rocket ship. 2020, 2021, everything changed after that. And so now they've realized that, The UFC is the star. The UFC is the brand. This is what they've always wanted. Dana White is bigger and better than ever. He's freaking up there with the president of the United States speaking. Like, who could have ever imagined a scenario like that 10 years ago? And you're going to see him out there doing more and more of this type of media, preaching this type of stuff, because this is a way, you may not think it's a way of him promoting the UFC or the sport, but it's that bat signal to people that, hey, come here, because this is what we believe in. While everyone is going that way, while Roger Goodell is backing DEI at the Super Bowl press conference, I'm calling out the woke mind virus, as he put it, that is spreading through society. It's very calculated. It's very smart. And we're watching it unfold. And I get calls and I get texts from people being like, what happened to MMA? What changed? Guess what? If you feel that way, it's only going to keep changing. We're not going back to 2012, where he got mad about Fallon Fox, or he got mad about Miguel Torres, or he got mad about Frank Mir. We may never go back to that, to be honest. It's only going, I don't want to say worse, because I'm not trying to offend anyone here, but it's only going to go more that way. And with regards to like the thing that I read at the end of the show yesterday, where he said the thing that we have to protect the most is hate speech. Again, it's just so fascinating to me, because freedom of speech is an amendment that says the government can't come to your house and arrest you, essentially punish you for saying things, for showing things, for talking about certain things. And everyone, I think, understands that. But to say that the most important free speech to protect is hate speech is just, it's absurd. Now, hate speech as well, unless you're like not hurting someone, you don't get arrested for that either. But again, who are we talking to here? Are we talking to the president? Are we talking to an elected official? Are we talking to the government, or are we talking to the owner of a company? Because if he's the former, then yes, he's right. We cannot punish that. But if he's the latter, and I don't even know if the interviewers know who they're talking to at this point, if he's the latter, as the boss of a company, of a company that, it doesn't say Bryce Mitchell, it says UFC fighter Bryce Mitchell, you have to ask yourself, do you want to be associated with this? Not should you protect it, not should you send a message to the public as to whether or not you're going to punish this type of thing. Do you want, as a company, to be associated with this type of rhetoric? I was having a conversation with someone about this earlier today, and they said, then do you punish Colby Covington for what he said about Leon Edwards? And do you get mad at him for the MAGA stuff? And I was like, wait a second, Leon Edwards, that is trash talk about a man's personal life. You like, that's all fair in love and promotion. When you start talking about like offending a religion, when you start talking about offending a people and trying to rewrite history and stuff like that, those are two very, very different things. And you have to just ask yourself, do you want to be affiliated with this? Do you want this to represent who you are? And what they have told us time and again is they're okay with that. They're okay with that. They don't mind that.
Can I just say, though, not a counterpoint, not a devil's advocate, but what is going to motivate them to not be okay with that? If there are no repercussions, if no sponsor goes, I don't like this, if nobody goes, I don't want to be associated with this, the message I believe that is being sent is, this is okay. Like, they are receiving the message.
Let me be very clear. This is what they want. This is the message that they want, that this is okay, that this is going to go unpunished, unchecked. Because, to your point, sponsors aren't pulling out. ESPN certainly isn't putting any pressure on them. They want to be the place where it's free speech and it's the Second Amendment and all this stuff, even though it makes no sense what he is saying, because someone needs to ask him, what do you want to be affiliated with? What do you want to be associated with? I'm not sitting here saying that Bryce Mitchell should, how many more times do I have to say? I don't think he should be punished. Stupid people say stupid things. He didn't murder anyone. He didn't run anyone over. He didn't do anything like that. I just want the answer to the question, and I know the answer to the question. Do you want to be affiliated, associated with this type of rhetoric? Do you want articles to be written as UFC fighter so-and-so who is fighting this weekend believes in so-and-so? And clearly the answer is yes. You don't mind. And so people just have to come to terms with that.
I agree with you, but what I'm saying is they haven't been slapped on the wrist. There have been no repercussions for them, right? When this happens, when something like this happens, no sponsor goes, did you hear what this Bryce Mitchell guy from the UFC did? And withdraws their funds from the UFC. And so therefore their motivation to do anything is weakened, is lessened, right? Because if there are no consequences from the people that they have to answer to, whether it be shareholders, whether it be sponsors, partners, is silence, then they're in a great position to just have the stance that you're describing, where it's like, we don't care either. We don't seem to care either. No, everybody's kind of complicit in this, in what is happening here in terms of how this system is being developed, where clearly the people that do business with the UFC and even are above the UFC at TKO don't particularly care that this is happening. And so therefore they are free to have that stance to protect hate speech and whatever other nonsense.
Yeah. What a weird time.
Yeah, bizarre.
Oh, man.
It's a weird time in the sport. It's a weird time to be a fan of the sport because you either have to like lean into it or ignore it. You know what I mean? You either have to say like, I don't really love all of this. Trust me, I don't really love having to talk about all of this. We've been doing this show since 2009, and like, you know, every third comment is about my religion, is about, you know, what I believe in and all this stuff. And now we're talking about the Holocaust and like I'm seeing comments about like the Holocaust not being real and the numbers not being real. I freaking went. I went to the concentration camps. I was there. I touched the thing. I was in the gas chambers. And I've met survivors, and some of my best friends' families died in the Holocaust. And like, why are we talking about this? Why does this have any place in our sport? There's a part of me that just wishes, hey, believe in what you want. Can we just not, like, there's a reason why you don't hear this type of talk in the NBA or NFL, and if it does happen, it gets squashed. Not because they're trying to stifle free speech. It's just like, can this just be the place where we like talk about sports and stupid stuff like Myles Garrett getting released? Like, I look at the other sports shows and I'm like, damn, it must be nice to just talk about sports. And I guess you could say at home, like, you guys could choose to not talk about this, but it's such a massive cloud hanging over us. It's hard to ignore. Every single day I open Twitter and there's another sort of uncomfortable controversy in front of our eyes regarding either the biggest names in the sport, mid-level names in the sport. There was a great tweet yesterday from Sadiq Youssef.
Yes. Yeah.
I don't know if we have it, but I thought he kind of nailed it. Do we have the Sadiq Youssef tweet? I will read it. I had it somewhere here. I think Rick sent it yesterday. A really, really great tweet. I don't know if someone could pull it up and read it for me. It is in Slack. Okay, here it is. At a certain point, we got to want to be taken seriously. The people outside of the MMA echo chamber think it's a bunch of racist and mentally challenged people in here. Every week, someone goes outside and adds onto the stereotype. What are we doing? This is a UFC fighter saying this. And kudos to him, because I think his sentiment is the minority right now. I would just like to say this, and especially if I could say this to Conor himself. Conor, in my opinion, is still the face of MMA. When people think of MMA and the UFC, as far as active participants, they still think of him, regardless of the fact that he hasn't fought since 2021. Every day, there's something else on social media. I saw something else today insulting towards Muslim people. There's all the incidents over the past couple months, and on it goes. There was a time where, 2015, 2016, 2014 was the best time ever to cover this sport. And there was nothing like covering that magic carpet ride known as the McGregor era. And he was such a light. He was such a light, not only for his home country, but for fans. Everyone was trying to emulate him, copy him, walk like him, talk like him. It was so much fun. And in addition to all of that, he was such an inspiration. He was an inspiration as far as his story, as far as being, on welfare. And he's sitting there with the dicky bow, and you see the thing grow and grow and grow, and people are holding up the Irish flag. They're not even Irish. They have no connections, but they just want to be like him and act like him and talk like him and walk like him and dress like him. And it was all so fun and fresh and uplifting. And I wish, and maybe this is silly of me, but like, I wish he can go back to being that light. Be that light, Conor. Be that role model again. These comments on Instagram and on Twitter, offending people, insulting people. Forget about that past. Forget about that rivalry. Forget about all that other shit. Be that light again for people. You are an inspiration. You can be a role model. Whether you like it or not, you are a role model to people. Stop with the insults. Stop with the comments that offend a large part of your fan base. You have Muslim fans. You have black fans. Stop with this stuff. You know that you know exactly what these words mean, and I know that they are words. Be that guy back in 2014 and 13 and 16 that people fell in love with. Turn the page. Family man, father. There is good in there. I believe that. But this stuff every day when you wake up and you see this and you're like, man, everything is getting ruined. Everything. And it may have been ruined already. And there may be no turning back. And certainly back home, I can't speak to a pizza can better than I. But please try to be that light again. Try to be that guy. Because this is not the way. This is not the way. This is not good for you. This is not good for your legacy. This isn't good for people who backed you. This isn't good for your fan base. Be that guy again. There's so much that you can do good as being this ambassador, this face of the sport, and it's all, it's all getting ruined now with this stuff. There's no need for it. There's no need for it whatsoever.
It's directly to Sadiq's point. I think it's way worse here, UK and Ireland, because of McGregor being the main frame of reference for most people when it comes to MMA. The stuff he's putting out has ramifications on the sport, and you're dead right about everything you said. We used to say this guy had the Midas touch. He lit everything he touched turned to gold. You often reference the shot at Madison Square Garden, zero technique. He's nearly half court. He drains the thing. It's just the opposite of that now. And look, maybe he will never be embraced in the way he was because that was meteoric. We've never seen anything like it. But he can certainly improve what he's putting out right now. And that is, I knew the guy back then, and he was magic to be around. And he wanted to be a representative of the people. Somewhere he's in there somewhere. I don't know. I haven't seen him in a long time, but I know he's in there somewhere. And even an improvement at this stage would be great, I think.
Let's talk about some good news. Yesterday evening, we got from The Ring some exciting news. And I love The Ring. God bless The Ring. God bless Michael Benson and everyone over there.
Got the big story.
I love what they say. The Ring has learned. They are owned by Turkey, so I would imagine the information. I'm not even verifying this one. I'm just going off of them, unless they've been hacked. The Ring magazine, reporting that September 13th is set for Allegiant Stadium, which is the home of the Raiders. Canelo Alvarez against Terence Crawford. It is going down at 168 pounds. Mexican Independence Day weekend. This is a gigantic fight. This is a dream fight. And yes, Terence moving up from 154, and he had a cup of coffee at 154 against Madrimov in August. The last few fights, obviously, at 47, beats Errol Spence almost 2 years ago now at 47 in an incredible fight in Las Vegas, and now moving up to 68. A fight, by the way, that Canelo had always said he had no interest in because he didn't want to be seen as a weight bully. Now it's happening because, of course, there aren't a ton of big fights out there for him. I would argue Benavidez is a maybe tougher challenge, if you will, because of the size discrepancy, but Terence Crawford versus Canelo is just a superstar fight in a football stadium, an American football stadium that, we don't see many of these here in the United States. They're old hat over in the UK, but there are only so many fighters and so many fights that can sell out or at least fill up football stadiums. I would argue strongly this is one of them. And so it's very cool that it's not going to be at T-Mobile, that it's going to be at Allegiant. And I'm very excited about it. It just feels like two superstars coming together. I'm happy for Terence Crawford that he's getting a superstar fight because he's been searching for this. Spence was a big one. Madrimov wasn't. But I'm very happy for him that he's getting this opportunity. I do wonder ultimately how many tickets they will sell and if they can actually fill it up, because I think Canelo's a massive draw. Crawford a huge draw, for arenas in Nebraska. I don't know if he could do it on his own. That show in LA wasn't a sellout, but this feels like a really big deal. Now, where it gets interesting is there are some reports now coming out that Canelo Jake Paul is a thing in May as well, which, by the way, what a freaking year for Canelo Alvarez. Holy shit. Those are two gigantic paydays, and he's the one who coined the phrase payday, payday, payday. So these are two massive things. My question to you guys is, A, do you have an appetite for Jake Paul versus Canelo? And B, and don't laugh at me for saying this or for asking it.
Don't ask it.
Is it a risk?
Don't ask it.
Is it a risk?
What are you about to ask?
Is it a risk?
Please don't ask.
We've seen this. You take that fight first, you slip.
We've seen this.
We've seen this with who?
With who?
We've seen this with who?
What's the comp for this? Give me a comp for.
I'll tell you right now.
Yeah.
They said that they were going to do Deontay Wilder. Deontay Wilder slips, right? They said they were going to do Deontay versus AJ. They said they were going to do Hrgovic versus AJ. Hrgovic loses to Dubois.
Which one of those was?
Who did he slip to?
Deontay Wilder lost to what's his name? To Joseph Parker.
Which one of those was YouTube influencer versus pound for pound?
Oh, Zhilei Zhang. Sorry, Zhilei Zhang. Okay, what's the question?
Which one of those was YouTube influencer versus pound for pound great being the hang up in the fight, being the one that stops the momentum? Because it's not happening. There is no world.
Okay, then let me ask you
this. May I be struck by lightning right now if this is possible?
Wow, a lightning bet from.
If this happens,
right.
if this happens.
There's just no way. There is no way.
Wait. If what happens? If the fight happens, or if the upset of the century happens?
If Jake Paul derails Terence Crawford versus Canelo by beating Canelo,
then you book Jake Paul versus Terence Crawford.
Zero.
Okay, let me ask you this: if that fight ends up being close,
yes,
a lot of people are going to watch that fight, right? A lot,
yes. because I think a lot of people are going to want to see Jake Paul lose, and
100%. Canelo's going to do this. Like Canelo would do this, and we're just talking.
Let's backtrack to your first question, which is interest. I'm very interested because, as I've long said, I'm on this corner. I only care about Jake Paul in spectacles. It would be an absolute spectacle to see a pound for pound. First, he did Mike Tyson. Which, and I'm not going all the way back, but I'm saying in his most recent outing, Mike Tyson, an all-time legend, a pop culture icon versus Jake Paul, is a spectacle. Now you're going the opposite direction to nearly in his prime. We'll say maybe like he's on the back nine, but he's still close to his prime. He's still a top 5 pound for pound on pretty much anybody's list fighter going against Jake Paul. I'm in for the spectacle. I'm in. I don't think Jake Paul has a chance in hell, but I'm in for the spectacle.
And how long has he been beating the drum on this? He's been saying he's going to do this forever.
Listen, let's see what happens.
So credit to him if it happens.
If it happens. But here's my question. If it's a close fight, does it diminish the gigantic fight in September, or does it make you more interested? Because I think now, David Benavidez offered a deferring point, but I think a lot of people think Canelo is just going to be too big for Terence Crawford. If it's a big fight, close fight that a lot of people will watch in May, would it make basically?
I'm going to give you a spoiler.
If you're Turkey and you got this gigantic fight at Allegiant Stadium in September, are you like, man, what are we doing here?
The booking of that fight tells you exactly the answer to that question.
Yeah.
There ain't a chance on God's green earth that Jake Paul is going to be competitive with Canelo Alvarez. None. Zero. Less than zero.
You think he's skunks
they're going to play this. They're going to play this, Rick. This is like a Dana White video. They're going to make in the aftermath. There is no way
it's going to be in black and white.
You know what? I'm willing. I'll roll the dice on this one. I like my odds. There ain't no way. There is no chance in hell that Jake Paul is competitive with Canelo Alvarez. It's not possible. I'm sorry.
Go full on Eric here. Go full on Eric. We need the full.
We need the black and white. We need the lower third.
Say it again.
Boxing media member.
I respect what Jake Paul has done in a very short time in boxing. He is not a boxer the caliber of Canelo Alvarez. He will never be a boxer the caliber of Canelo Alvarez. There is not a chance in hell is going to be competitive. And Canelo will, after dominating him, will roll. Thank you for taunting me. Will roll on to. Oh, wait a minute. What the? Will roll on to fight Terence Crawford in a fight that I'm also like. I'll be honest. Like I don't love Terence's fight. I don't love Terence's odds in that fight. I actually have Terence number 1 pound for pound still. I don't love his chances. I just think he's going to be too small ultimately, and Canelo's going to be too big. But he's got a hell of a better chance than Jake Paul does. I'll tell you that much. Because it's zero.
What a world! If this, by the way, if this happens, both have yet to be officially announced. If it happens, what a freaking world we're living in! What a world!
It's crazy.
By the way, I have some insight into the world of boxing these days because of uncrowned.com. When I say insight, I mean from like an interest level, very much courtesy of our good friend Shaheen. The interest in boxing, like we think of it as this niche thing, and that it's not as, like when I was talking about, it's at an all-time high and all these actual boxing people were shitting on me for saying that, which was bizarre in my opinion. The fan base, maybe because they're underserved, I don't know what it is, but there is such great interest when you compare it to the interest in MMA on the website or even pro wrestling. It's crazy to witness. Even I wasn't really expecting this. And this is only going to make it bigger. Go ahead.
Do you think Jake Paul versus Canelo is bigger than Canelo Crawford?
Gosh. What a question.
It depends. It depends on what we're measuring.
Yeah, right. I was gonna say, what's the metric? Are they gonna do it on pay-per-view if it happens?
If it's like a mentions of like people talking about it, I'd say probably. Yeah.
I guess where do you think they would do it? Because obviously they're doing it at Allegiant for Crawford Canelo. Would they also do a stadium for Paul Canelo as well?
Imagine Canelo goes back-to-back.
I was going to say, my God, could you imagine?
Boss move.
I see all these reports that are like Canelo Crawford first ever fight at Allegiant. What if it's actually Canelo Paul?
Or you could go back to Cowboy Stadium.
Is it Netflix worthy? Netflix worthy, lads?
I think so.
I think so.
Yeah.
I mean, it's big business, man. Canelo is pound for pound, massive superstar.
Also, the fact that Canelo, one of the true faces of boxing over the past 10 years, is the guy, like, you beat up Mike Tyson, and now come to me. Come to me, daddy.
Serious question.
You know what I mean? It's a great fucking story.
I mean, everyone always rips on Jake Paul and his selection of opponents. You can't really rip on this one.
Well, you can because you'll say he's a weight bully.
He's a weight bully.
A weight bully to a pound for pound great of this generation.
Irrelevant. He ain't doing a damn thing. Serious question though. You mentioned if Jake Paul keeps it close, would that tarnish Canelo and tarnish the fight against Crawford? That's not happening, so we'll eliminate that option. But is not fighting like a Benavidez instead of Terence Crawford and instead of Jake Paul potentially something that a boxing fan would look at and go, Canelo's doesn't want the smoke, honestly.
I do feel like a lot of the boxing fans have sort of moved on from that fight.
I haven't. I want that shit.
I mean, I want it too, but like I don't feel like it's being held over his head as much.
Yeah, I agree with you.
He's moved up to 75, and also the fact that there's a potential better be a Bivol fight out there. I think what people were annoyed about was the fact that like here's Benavidez incredible, and he can't get his payday.
Yeah.
You know, like Canelo fought Floyd. Like you gotta return the favor, and there's Benavidez with his hands in his pocket. Now here he is headlining a show in Vegas. Seems to have done well. He's going out to Riyadh. I think the idea of him fighting Beterbiev or Bivol is so mouth-watering that people have kind of moved on. Would they sign up for it yesterday? Absolutely. But I think the fact that he has something else now to get people excited about has allowed people to kind of, you know.
Good fortune there for El Canelo. You know,
it's great. The heat is off.
Little side quest over here with Jake Paul, and then Terence Crawford is 3 weight classes smaller. It's great.
The heat is off.
He was getting smoke. Turkey was giving Canelo smoke and everything about that. The Benavidez fight, if I remember correctly, right? Like
I mean, there was a time where they weren't even like buds at all. They were talking a little bit of smack about each other.
But Turkey's been on the Canelo Crawford thing for a bit now. He definitely diverted the attention. Like a long time.
Can I just say this about Jake and Chael's going to join us hopefully in a couple of minutes here. You know, last week around this time we were talking about this thing with Logan Paul, and you know, it ended up being this reality show, right? It's coming out in late March, I think the 27th on Max, about the family, about him, about Logan and whatnot. And I have sat here on this show, on other shows, and defended the validity of his fights. What's the first thing that everyone wants to say after his fights? They're at work, they're fixed, all this stuff. And I have sat here and said, no, I'm sitting there ringside. No one's pulling punches. These punches are hitting. Like, none of this is scripted. You could go to jail if you get caught scripting a pro boxing bout, one that is sanctioned by, you know, an athletic commission here in the United States. And ultimately, in life, and I think in the fight game as well, your credibility is your greatest currency. If the audience believes in you and trusts you, that could take you a very, very long way. And if they feel like you're tricking them, if they feel like you're pulling a fast one on them, it's going to come and bite you in the ass, bite you in the wallet, bite you in the pocket, if you get what I'm saying. And so I would say that last week was a major misstep in this quest to be taken seriously, in this quest to be trusted, because very clearly what the message that they wanted to put out was Logan and Jake are fighting. Now, I do think one day they will fight, but very clearly they are not fighting on March 27th on Max. And for a couple of days, they let people kind of run with this, and they knew exactly what they were doing by the way this was promoted, the poster, the initial clip of them facing off, all this stuff. And so I would say that you can't, for lack of a better word, cry in the aftermath of your fights and say, why do people try to take away from what I'm doing? Why do people question the legitimacy of my fights? Why do people try to put it down? Why do haters come out, make YouTube videos, TikTok videos, all this stuff when you pull stunts like this? Because you were very clearly trying to trick people last week. And so thus the currency that you're trying to develop, the currency that you're trying to build up, the credibility currency took a massive hit. And so the next time someone asks one of these questions or makes one of these YouTube videos, the next time a Carl Froch takes a shot at you in this regard, you can only just look back to last week and say, look, you played into this. And I think that that's a shame. There was a very easy and clean way to promote what they wanted to promote last week without hurting their credibility. And Logan is in the pro wrestling world. He deals with a different type of currency. Jake is in the world of trying to become a champion, of trying to beat the likes of Canelo and God knows who else. That's a major hit to him. And so the next time this happens, and I can assure you it will happen again, look no further than last week. Last week, I think, was a major, major misstep. You cannot trick people, especially when you're in that business, especially when you're in the fight business, when all you're trying to do, like, you know, the UFC doesn't put out like April Fool's jokes. They don't trick people with fake announcements because you don't want the next time there's a questionable call or a controversial scorecard or something like that, people to be like, you're in the business of working us. You can't do that. That was a major misstep. And I would also say that it was unnecessary. It was unnecessary in the sense that like it didn't lead to views, it didn't lead to clicks the next day. This thing's coming out in a month and a half. It's coming out in a month and a half. No one's even going to remember that you did this. You know what I mean? Like no one's even going to say like, oh yeah, that's the thing. Oh, in a month and a half, I need to click on this. No, you want to do something like that, you do it usually when something's coming out that day or the next day. A month and a half later, you just hurt your credibility. And it didn't even lead to anything. It didn't even lead to more viewership. It didn't lead to more people subscribing to Max or tuning in. So I thought that was a misstep. And I would ask him that question. I would love to hear his take on that. All right, let's put a pin on this discussion. And let's go to our first and only guest. It's very rare, by the way. It's extremely rare that we only have one guest on this program. But there are certain people who can carry their own weight. There are certain draws in this business who are A-plus listers, who you just need one name on the marquee. That's it. And so we are being honored on this lovely Tuesday, February 4th by the one and only, the inimitable, the bad guy himself, my old friend, my old co-host, one half of the coaching staff of The Ultimate Fighter Season 33, Chael P. It's good to see you again. How are you?
That was the most beautiful and sincere welcome I think you've ever given me. I was doing good when I got here. I'm better now. And thank you for, hey, I do need a favor today before we get going. Can I talk to you about something?
Yeah, please, please. There's so much.
I'm doing The Ultimate Fighter.
Yeah.
And I'm doing it with DC.
Yes.
And that has confused so many people. So DC stands for Daniel Cormier.
Yes.
And this guy was a fighter. This guy was good too. You go back and watch him. He was good with the takedowns, and he beat Pat Cummings one time. I can't believe that more people don't remember him. And I will admit, I also shared in the confusion. When they asked me to come and do The Ultimate Fighter with Daniel Cormier, I thought they were asking me to come out and coach Daniel Cormier. I was as surprised as anybody when he was also given a jersey. But if Bersari and Zach and the crew, if they edit this thing just right, we can have success in spite of Daniel.
Okay, so you thought that you were actually being brought in to coach him?
Yes. I assumed it was written that way. The thing was a text message. You know, will you do tough? And Daniel Cormier's name was in there. Maybe they call him like these initials. Sometimes they call him DC, and it's weird. He's one up of a big show on ESPN called The Bad Guy with the other guy.
Yeah.
He's the other guy, but because of that, that's just like, I don't know, man. I really feel like he's been getting disrespected a lot through this process.
No, I agree.
They were showing us the set. They walked us through like virtually, and they said, okay, here's where the mat is, and here's where the cage is, and here's the locker rooms. They said, do you have any questions? I said, well, yeah. Is there a place I can stash a couple of roast beef sandwiches in case Daniel gets hungry? Like, I'm not saying we're going to need them. I'm saying it's better to not need it and have it than to not have it when you need it.
That's a good point. Can I be honest with you? I thought you were just about to ask me when you said, "Can I ask you a favor?" And I was ready to say yes. I was ready to jump and say how high. Is everything okay?
Absolutely. Miss Brittany's here. Miss Brittany just went and got a drink, but she didn't know if she could bring it.
Oh, what a great honor.
Oh,
there she is.
This girl is a bomb rock. You ever seen how hot Miss Brittany is?
Can I ask Miss Brittany a question?
Yeah.
Does she still pack your bags when you go on trips? Does she lay it all out? And
absolutely.
And what's the thought process?
Everything I'm wearing now, socks and underwear, was laid out this morning.
Wow. Oh,
yes.
It's even on non-road trips? It's on regular days?
Every single day it gets set. She just yelled, of course, in the background. Every single day it gets. I don't even know where the luggage is. I'm not attempting to be funny right now. I don't know where. I don't know where we store the luggage. I mean, I wouldn't even know where to get the thing to.
Wow.
And then begin to pack it. And you know that. And by the way, I do not expect that. I am saying this from a perspective of gratitude. Like that is a very kind thing to start to do for somebody. She started it 13 years ago. I don't even know.
I'm jealous, if I'm being honest. Yeah. Now, my question is, do you ever get mad? Do you ever say like, you know what? I didn't want that shirt. Miss Brittany, why did you have to pack that one? Don't you know I don't like this one? Do you ever offer critique? And if so, how does that land?
Yeah. Okay. So here's the thing, Ariel.
Yeah.
I am very rich. But really, I should not have days where my socks don't match.
Ooh,
okay?
Yeah.
They should always match. And I should not have days where I go to the underwear drawer and where I'm out of underwear. Oh, we got to go do some laundry. I have like 7 pairs of underwear. And they're all the same brand, so like they look cool in the drawer. But if you don't have more underwear, it's easy to run out. And that does upset me. I do not think a rich man should have to run out of underwear and socks.
Okay. And are you implying that you do sometimes?
Yes.
Wow.
I did not go fight all those men so that I can't have clean underwear and socks. I did not go rob those banks. I didn't break those rules. I didn't cheat those commissions to not have socks and underwear. In fact, I even thought to myself, before I go make these decisions and I sell my soul, can I get socks and underwear out of the deal? And when the answer was yes, I proceeded, Ariel.
And is this the first she's hearing about it? Like, will this cause a rift?
No, she's shaking her head. Oh, she looks so pretty right now. You should see her. She looks so pretty. No, she's shaking her head. No, it is true that my socks don't always match and my underwear goes empty. She just doesn't feel that is her fault. She does not see how if I go through 3 pairs of underwear a day.
I agree.
Because I do a workout or I go and run the kids' practice, that then when the drawer is empty, that should be expected. I think you go to online and you order Chael a few more pairs of Tom Fords.
Yeah, no, I agree 100% with her on this one. Can I also just say that, you know, it's amazing to see her in this presence, and I'm wondering, is she there to sort of police you? Because sometimes it goes off the rails with you and I, and it's been a lot of people got hurt. There's been a lot of hurt feelings. So is she here to make sure that you keep it professional?
Yes, she actually is. She's a massive Ariel supporter, much like my mom is. When I get a tip, her and my mom get mad at me instead of sharing my anger with you. But that might be exactly why she's here. By the way, I had something I was going to tell you. What were we talking about? Oh,
yeah, Ariel. I wanted to tell you something too. Go ahead, yeah.
Can I go first? Because it's about the Royal Rumble.
Oh, my gosh. Oh, wait. First, before we get off the tough thing, I thought you were going to ask me to be one of your coaches. And so I've been waiting here for the text. I've been waiting.
I would love it.
Okay, so like, am I in or what?
I would love, I will definitely make a day. I think that you're being funny right now. But you really come to town and you wanted to come in and probably just talk to the guys, probably have you like come in and talk to them about being a professional and, you know, discipline and keeping your eye on the ball. Because Ariel, they do a great job.
Yeah.
Dana does a great job of capturing the physical tryingness of this process. You know, you're going to weigh in 3 times. You're going to fight 3 men. He could be the guy sleeping across the hall. He could be your best friend through the process, and you got to go out and compete with him, making weight, being in the saunas. Like, he does a great job of showing that. But, Ariel, there is a whole battle that I think is bigger, and it's the mental battle. The fact that you're gonna have breakfast with somebody, you might even help him cook his eggs, and he makes your bacon, like make a little trade like that. Then you get in a car, you drive to the arena, you fight each other. You try to damage and hurt one another, not to mention taking the other guy's dream and aspirations away. Then you're supposed to get back in the van his head is hanging. He can't even call his mom or his wife. You can't celebrate because you be a jerk, even though you feel good about yourself for what you just did. Then you go back to the house. You sit down at another table known as the dinner table, and you break bread again before you go upstairs and go to sleep. I mean, it is so, the Ultimate Fighter is so incredibly difficult. And the true veterans of it really do deserve credit and respect. And all you got to do to be a veteran, I don't mean to win it. I'm talking about you start on the first day, you make it through the process, because it's most guys want to quit at some point.
This is so good. This is so amazing. How did they come to you with this? How did it, like, what are the embryonic stages of this? How did this happen?
Sure. I got a phone call, and it was actually from Daniel. And Daniel had talked with Shelby. And somehow Daniel got tasked with being the one that presents it to Uncle Chael. And I think they thought there was going to be a level of resistance. I was actually very much for it. I got to check with Clayton real fast, make sure the dates worked out, and then we just went from there. Don't forget, Clayton lives in Nevada now. So this wasn't a problem at all. He's got to miss the 14th. That's his birthday and Valentine's Day. They got a little thing going. But other than that, no, we're ready to go. And Grandpa got a hold of Colby. Vinny's always there. No, we're ready to go.
And how did the family feel? I mean, it's a big commitment, right? It's like 5 weeks, 6 weeks, right?
6 weeks, and they're coming with me.
Oh, wow.
And yeah, and I must tell you, my wife and I were very torn on this, because if you take kids out of school, like I can remember parents that did that didn't take school and each day seriously, but those kids turned out a certain way. Like, it's very important that your kid is in school. And we're talking about removing them for 38 days. And we were very torn on that. But we worked with the school, the principal specifically. We found a tutor. There's going to be some online stuff. So we're going to do it. We're going to take them. And we got the new with the laptops and the Google Hangout, it's called. And so we'll be communicating with the school. But that was probably the hardest part. I got to take my dogs. I got to take both my cats.
Wow.
Like 38 days that's a meaningful amount of time to be gone. So we're driving out there because I got to take Duke and Rosa, and I got to take Hulk and Lily. So there's the answer to your question. I'm moving to Las Vegas. I'm moving to Vegas for 38 days.
Was there any discussion just floated, even like thrown out? Hey, when this is over, you and Daniel compete.
Oh, God. Oh. That is still being discussed, because they started this new grappling. They're doing this grappling. So it's just being discussed, and it's supposed to be a little bit friendly. It's like, Dana, please, do not make that audience stare at that man with his shirt off. Stop. And I kept talking to him about this. I said, please, this guy was once a fighter. This guy fought for you. And Dana said, who did? I said, he fought for you. He was in your organization. He did it under the name Daniel Cormier. He goes, are you talking about that Cormier guy? I said, man, ignore the R. Pretend the R is an A. Trust me, that's the guy that beat Pat Cummins.
Okay, so it's off the table.
Well, I would hope. I would hope. I just think that would be very terrible. I don't think the audience.
You could do with a rash guard.
Can I ask you another question?
Yeah, let's talk.
Because you see through the performance. But do you see how well the performance is done? I mean, when Daniel thought he and Sean were going to team up against me, thought they were going to team up to get me so that they have a show. Do you really think he thought that through? Like, does he know what he's getting into? Really, does he have any idea what 38 days with Chael P can be like?
No.
If Chael wants it to be a certain way?
No, I mean, I think it's a phenomenal idea. I love everything about it. I would love to see some sort of wrestling, grappling, I don't know, something at the end. Just old school, like, we need a payoff, because remember, we didn't get the payoff with Chandler and McGregor. Like, we need to go old school. No? Gotta have a payoff.
You gotta have the payoff, yes.
There has to be something. What are we coaching for here? What are we doing? But I want to get to your Royal Rumble thing. What did you want to ask me? Because I saw you were tweeting up a storm about the Royal Rumble. And, you know, we had a guy yesterday on the program, I don't know if you saw this, shouting you out. Did you see this?
I saw Joe.
There he is.
I loved it. I thought Joe has been a gentleman to me, though. That's not Joe's first time treating me that way. I do appreciate that, and I do return that. He came out number 15, and my son and I popped.
Yes,
we popped when he popped through the curtains. He was wearing the belt, man. He looked cool.
He looked awesome. Fantastic, but he told me about a story of him DMing you way back in the day. I have to say, it reminded me very much of you and Oban Elliott. People know you as the bad guy, Chael, but in reality, you give back to the business. You put guys over. You give them the blueprint. And so how many Joes and how many Obans are there out there? Because now they're all they're all the guys that were teenagers, kids, when you were doing your thing against Anderson and cutting promos, UFC 136 and all this stuff. Now they're all becoming pros themselves. So now all these stories, there's a thing. Let me educate you, if I can, for a moment. There's a great documentary on Netflix called The Carter Effect. It's about how Vince Carter, the basketball player, changed the way young Canadians feel about basketball. And all these little kids who saw Vince Carter come to Canada in 1998, 1999 are now pros and have now transformed basketball in Canada. What we are seeing now is the Sonnen effect. We're seeing all these people who looked up to you as kids now become professionals, and stories are coming out of the woodwork about how you helped them and showed them the blueprint. So my question is, how many more of these are out there?
Well, I will tell you, that was very nice to hear. If you can reach me, I'm not the world's easiest guy to get. I'm sure you can relate. But if somebody could, if they can circumvent the game, or they could do the DM the right way, or whatever it is, if you can reach me, the answer will be yes. Whatever it is you're going to ask me for, you are going to get. And so in Joe's situation, or in Oban's situation, it was just a little advice, just a little time. And for somebody young and inspiring, they asked me, do I got some time? Absolutely, I got time for you.
I love it. By the way, speaking of,
because I don't find time, Ariel, I make time.
Yeah, no, that's what real.
Did you hear earlier when I said roast beef sandwich for Daniel? I said a couple, by the way. That was the brilliance. I said, yeah, is there somewhere to stash a couple of roast beef sandwiches for Daniel? Like, that's brilliant work right there. That's G-rated. That's simple kinds of stuff. That's like the Will Smith of rap music. He doesn't have to curse to sell albums.
You've shared
some do, so F him and F you too. I mean, right? Like, this is brilliant.
Wow, you almost dropped an F-bomb right there in front of your wife?
No, you know who said that was Eminem. He said, Will Smith doesn't have to curse to sell albums, but I do. So F him and F you do. That's just a great line. It's a great line.
By the way, your finest hour, I think, at least of the last 4 or 5 years, was that I've never laughed so hard. You answering your phone after the whole Gilbert Burns situation. I mean, that might have been, honestly, because I've had this happen to me, Chael, and for you to do that, I passed it off to everyone, to Leah, to Zeus, to all our old colleagues. I said, this might be Chael's finest hour. This might be his greatest piece of work of all time. How did you turn such a negative into a positive? And did you clear the air with Gilbert? That wasn't a very nice thing to do. If you ask me, I thought that was crossing the line.
I don't think Gilbert knows what an inconvenience he put me through. Because Gilbert's one of the nicest guys you're gonna like. That's an expression. He's the nicest guy you'll ever meet. It actually might be Gilbert Burns. He might actually be number one on that expression. I do not think he would have done that, and it wasn't equitable. Like, his response, he shut me down for weeks. He shut me down. I got locked out of this phone. I stashed the phone. Then it turns out there was Bitcoin on the phone. I forgot what the codes are, and I got to go. I mean, this has been, no, I got it all. Everything worked out, but I'm just saying, like, this took weeks to rectify. And there was a little bit of a confusion, though. And Gilbert Burns was genuinely hurt. I hurt his feelings. I had disrespected him. And what I had said was, Gilbert's retired. I was talking with Daniel, and Daniel was trying to, like, find an opponent. It might have even been Colby for Gilbert. And I just stopped him and said, oh, Gilbert's ranked number 7, but he actually retired. I thought he had. I was backing him up. I mean, that was my point. I was just backing him up. Like, hey, don't go put him in a fight, and then he's going to say he doesn't want to do the fight. Like, I was trying to get in front of it to help him. I was wrong. Whatever it was that he said where I thought that was a walkaway speech, I was wrong. But yeah, it was a big payback. You know, I did that to Chad Mendez one time. He hurt my feelings. And I warned him. I said, you have 5 minutes to get back to me. And then a minute later, I text him the number 4. And a minute later, I text him the number 3. Then I text him the number 2. And then I tweeted out his phone number. The next day, he gets announced. He's going to fight Conor in place of Aldo for the world title. Like, there was never a more important time in Chad's life to have his telephone. And I screwed him. He had to go. He was so busy. He had to go down to like they were following him around the cameras, and they had to follow him to the Verizon store because he had to get a new telephone. Oh God, I felt so bad. I have tried to make that up to Chad for like 15 years. I go out of my way to be overly nice to Chad because I did that to him. So I kind of had it coming.
Why did you do that? I vaguely remember this, but why did you do it?
I was trying to get him on the podcast. I was trying to line him up. And, you know, and his star was kind of bright right then. And I thought I should have an inside track because I knew him way back when, like one of these things. He hurt my feelings. That's what it was. He didn't come on, you know. I've only had one person tell me no. Now, I've had people where the answer is no, but they will say nothing at all. Kevin Nash took the time to write me back to let me know that he was not interested in being a guest on my show. I just always appreciated it. Like, why? Why did you why didn't you just delete it and move on with your life?
What was his reason?
He didn't get one. He said, "Nah, man, I'm good. I'm going to pass."
Wow.
And then he wrote KN. He didn't even sign it. He just put his initials, KN, which was pretty badass, quite frankly. Kevin Nash is a cool big guy, and there's not a lot of cool big guys. Really big guys are generally awkward.
Yeah.
But, like, if you go back and you want to watch a killer face-off, it's when Goldberg does his whole thing.
Oh, yeah.
And then Kevin Nash, they throw the camera to Nash, and he simply does this, and the crowd goes crazy. The crowd goes crazy. That's the night he beat Goldberg. He beat Goldberg 1, 2, 3. Goldberg's still upset about that.
With the taser. So what did you think of the Rumble?
Okay.
Tell me.
I have a lot of thoughts on the Rumble.
Please.
First off, it's very sad for me when Dominic Mysterio has to go through everything that he has to go through, and then he doesn't get a little bit of shine. And the number that he drew, I thought, and it was an outside chance, but I thought maybe there would be some rectification. Maybe there's proof that there's a God in heaven above that will smile down and finally give Dominic the opportunity. It didn't happen. But when Logan Paul came out number 30, there is so much on that decision from an artistic standpoint, Ariel. There is so much interpretation. If you're going to have Logan, you're going to have the guy that's been spoon-fed everything. You're going to have the guy that's this mega superstar, and nobody even knows if he's trained the damn sport before, and he's over. And you're going to let him come to the Royal Rumble to start with. I mean, let's just start with how the hell he even got into the Royal Rumble. But once you're there, you're going to walk him number 30. You're going to give him the greatest opportunity of all the boys. Like there is such a message in that placement, and I was so impressed by it. I was so impressed by the fact that they took the guy that likely doesn't belong and not only put him in the absolute best spot. I was getting worried towards the end of the night. I thought that there was a good chance Cena was going over, and that would have been a very big mistake, but it's a mistake that would have been made prior to the match. Like, they didn't know he was going to get out there and have a bald spot. They didn't know he was going to get out there and hadn't been to the tanning beds, and he's a little bit bent over, and it was one of these things. You don't know. So if you give that order back in Gorilla, they go out there and start working. He comes out on top. You got to figure out, how do I go to Mania with this old man? Yeah.
So do you like the decision of going with Jay?
It surprised me.
Which is great, right? Isn't that what you want?
Yes. Yes. I did like it. It surprised me. And I know that he's ultimately going to draw into Cody, even though that's not officially stated yet. But I just think that match needs a lot of work. And they'll do it. They'll make it work. But generally speaking, in WrestleMania's past, we're further along with the storyline than we are right. We are nowhere with this storyline. This dude's got no business with Cody whatsoever. So I think that part of it is interesting.
You don't think there's any way that he goes for Gunther and they have Cody go up against Cena?
Yeah, maybe. Well, and you got Roman and Seth, and there was something very big that happened there. I even talked to CM Punk about it. There was something very big, and it was the spot that they recorded the most, aside from the actual match, which is the guys outside. I'm talking about Seth Rollins. CM Punk ends up in some kind of a street fight. Like, he even was slipping some potatoes in when he was kicking a guy. Roman Reigns, I mean, that dude can't sneeze and have it not work. He's so damn handsome, and he just looks this part, right? So the three of them get into something, but I didn't think that story was told completely. We, the audience, were supposed to gather something from those three fighting, but we didn't. We somehow missed it, or the announcers didn't get us there. But there was for sure a story. Yes, there's a story right here that's being told. Evident of the fact that this is the longest that the cameras filmed action aside from what was inside the ring. And I think that ties in, though, partner. I'm letting you know, because you asked me about Gunther. Yes, there is a chance that it's Gunther, and there is a chance that Cody goes with one of those three, which, to my point about being a further along proposition, I think we'd agree that it would be.
Did you see the crowd crapping on Charlotte yesterday?
Yes. She deserved it.
Why?
That was bad.
Why?
It was bad.
What was bad?
Well, I don't really want to pile on. I would have happily cut the promo on Charlotte and told you the things that were wrong with it had everybody else not noticed it. Like if it was just me. So I don't want to give her. There's a great moment here, and we're off to WrestleMania, and the one company that won't go woke is gone. These women are in the main event. Woo! Yeah, this is great. I mean, I can play along to an extent, but she was out for a minute, and she made a comeback, and that's hard to do. And I think maybe that part should be celebrated. Maybe I'll word it like that today.
Sure, I appreciate you doing that. I will say, you saw the difference between the men and women's Rumble. They got the women's Rumble so wrong. They got the men's Rumble so right. Because the men's Rumble was a surprise. It came out of nowhere. It was unpredictable. It's everything we want out of wrestling, right? We want to suspend disbelief and think that on any given night, especially in the Rumble, someone who needs it gets the rub from the Rumble, and now they're viewed in a main event light, right? Cena doesn't need that. Punk doesn't even need it. Charlotte doesn't need it, and everyone saw it coming a million miles away. She didn't look great out there in terms of her technique, in terms of how she wrestled. There are at least 5 other people who deserve that more and who would have benefited from it more. And so, as much as I thought they got the men's Rumble right, they got the women's Rumble wrong.
Sure, I fully agree with that. And it's hard to get them both right, and it's a little bit long. I mean, as a whole, but whoever came up with the Rumble, I mean, that really is one of the greats. Every 1 minute, the crowd's waiting to hear that music. It is awesome, man. They do such a good job. What a basic spot, too, when Cena's got him up. And he's all he's got to do is drop him forward, but, he goes back over, then he just barely pushes John in the back, and John just plops down, lands on both feet. That was the most simple exit that we saw all night, without question. I mean, he touched his back, and he fell to both feet. It was, again, from an artistic standpoint, this was brilliant stuff. John does not take any kind of a bump. This is his final time. John passes the torch in an appropriate way. Like, this was such a cool moment because of how basic they let him go. I mean, John lands on both feet. He lands on both feet. It's just like, oh my gosh, what just happened? That's very realistic, Ariel. That's what would realistically happen if people were doing. That was a great spot, man. They did such a good job. They really did. 70,000 people.
Yeah.
They got 70,000 people there. They counterbalance. They usually been playing on Sundays, these pay-per-views. So they play it Saturday in front of 70,000. TKO, which owns the UFC, I got to get up at 5 o'clock my time to watch that product, which was ending by the time my family was having our lunch. And I'm just saying, for one day, they're in 2 different continents. They're doing 2 different sold-out pieces of business. They've got network deals and sponsorship deals.
Crushing.
That is fascinating to me.
Crushing.
But I did not think Ari could pull this off. If you really want the truth, when Ari came in and put a valuation of $11 billion on the UFC, and this is years after he's already put $4+ billion on the UFC. Ari came out publicly and said that he values TKO, which only owns the WWE and the UFC, at $22 billion. Ariel, you cannot exaggerate in that position. If you come out and exaggerate in that position, somebody can end up in handcuffs. And I remember being worried when Ari made that claim. Now, Ariel, it's only been a year and a half. They're $50 billion. Their stock price was $70 when Ari Emanuel made that claim. They're $157 as I sit here right now. That's just a little over a year later. That is amazing.
And more to come with the TV deals and whatnot. Can I ask, when are you going to cross over? When are you going to cross?
Come.
When are you going to cross?
I appreciate you saying that. There's more to come. Like, we don't know where this is going to go, or if some of the bosses are going to get their way. Dana was very big. Dana did not want that broken up. He believed we really need to focus, and the audience knows where to go and find us. But now they are talking like the football and the baseball.
Yeah.
You could put some over here and some over here, and that is just where the world's at. And if they succeed and they do break it up, I mean, yes, then this $157 valuation. Me saying that it's worth $50 billion based on those numbers. Come on, Ariel. It could be $100 billion, and I would not have predicted that for this industry.
now that
what the UFC is doing right now to be able to sell out arenas that are non-pay-per-views, to go and do something like they did this weekend, or I got to be part of Colby's show that was in December. That was the biggest fight that we had in December. They had more people, and the live gate was slightly under the pay-per-view, but I mean, they're doing multi-million-dollar for just their Saturday shows, and that's old school Vince McMahon. Vince used to do that. You know, whether it was Saturday night's main event, but each Saturday there'd be something somewhere. And so this business model's been out there. It's a matter of having your company catch up. It's a very interesting time to really study the inner workings of what is now known as TKO.
Yes, and both worlds coming together makes it even more interesting for longtime fans like you and I. When are we going to see you cross over? It's never been easier for a UFC guy to cross over. We've seen other people do. Like I feel like it's high time. Chael P on WWE programming. This has to be in the works.
You know what I would like an opportunity for? If Dana and this boxing, if this gets going, I would like an opportunity to call boxing. In fact, I would like to call boxing with you, but I would like an opportunity to call boxing, and that's a very hard thing to break into, and they don't see me that way. They see I'm the MMA guy, and they keep me in this box, and if I could just get that opportunity once, I really think I would entertain you. I could
boxing more than wrestling.
Left and a right hand are, but yeah, you know what? I don't know. That's just really never happened. Look at Pat McAfee, by the way. He's doing such a great job. I went and got a haircut, Ariel, and I told the woman, I said, can you do it a little shorter on the sides, but I'm trying to grow the top out. It's a little longer on top. I'm trying to grow it out. Those were my exact words. And she says to me, oh, the Pat McAfee. Wow. Yeah, that's how we're getting those requests all the time. And I thought, no, not the Pat McAfee. And then she did my haircut, and it was exactly how I wanted it. It was the Pat McAfee.
Wow.
Little shorter on the side, little longer on top, and it embarrassed me. And now I got to get a new hairdo. I got to go find a new hairdo.
No, I think you look fantastic. The glasses are great. I think you would be a perfect match. You would be virtuoso in the world of pro wrestling in some sort of capacity. Manager, commentator, behind the scenes, producer, agent, booker. I would love to see it happen. I want to ask you something very, very serious now. Bryce Mitchell, the Bryce Mitchell situation. How do we break this down in the aftermath of it all? This is big time stuff, and everyone, breathe, Chael, breathe. This is a big one, but this is one that I think perhaps on, I don't know, some other shows that you do, you maybe can't get into, and so I want to have an actual frank discussion with you on this one, because obviously this is a topic that is near and dear to my heart, and I think you may be surprised by my stance, but I would love to get your opinion on how Bryce handled it and how the UFC, in particular Dana White, has handled it.
And I personally had to go through it twice. So it is World War II, Hitler, it is required learning for all high school kids. But when I went to the University of Oregon, it was required learning there too. So I went through this twice. It is so hard when you get to the part of the story that Hitler died. It is one of the biggest letdowns of the story, Ariel, because I wanted to get him. I want him to have him. I want him tried. I want him in a box. I want him, I don't like how he escaped. I don't like it that he got away with this to this regard, right? And I wanted him to have him so bad. I wanted that piece of the story to be redone. Now, I must tell you, I have never heard anybody say, except in satire, what Bryce said. Like I've seen actors that were on TV, Ed Norton in American History X, where he's playing a white supremacist with hate in his heart. He's pretending. That's the only time I've even heard words like this said. I was so pulled back, and I don't really see myself as the guy that's like, oh, I was surprised or I was disappointed. I don't really see myself that way. Ariel, I couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe what he said. And you want to know what was interesting? I don't believe there. No, I don't believe. There was no hate in his heart. When you say words like that, even in even fiction, even where it's written script for performance, the guy, he's got the eyes and he's got the hate in his heart. Bryce did not say it like that. That was just and see, used to be given when I was growing up, there was always an option. They would say he's racist or he's ignorant. Always. A guy would never just get called racist. They would say, well, he's either racist or he's ignorant. And it was important that you had the ignorant, because sometimes you will meet a stupid person. And when a stupid person says something stupid, it doesn't necessarily make them the other option. Sometimes they're just stupid.
And so what do you...
I'd love to hear your take.
on him in just the first part, because there's like multiple chapters to this story, right? He had a quote unquote apology. I do think there is hate in his heart when he says that.
Really?
100%.
No. That would be hard. That would be hard to hear as a Jewish person in your spot. If you felt that, I'm sorry. That's probably
no. That's fine.
Please go ahead. I won't interrupt. Go ahead.
The interpretation is part of the discussion. I'm not offended by what he says because I don't put any value on his opinion. So I don't look to Bryce Mitchell to be my sort of guiding light and moral compass. I know the history. I know who we are. I know what happened. I visited Auschwitz. I've been to Poland. I went to Treblinka. I went to Dachau. I know exactly what it is. I've met survivors, etc. And so when I hear him say things like, the only thing that Hitler wanted to do was rid the Jews of Germany, or rid Germany of the Jews because Jews were turning everyone gay. I mean, it's a nonsensical, stupid thing, and it's to me, it's evil because you are siding with evil, and so I can't give him that pass. But what I would say is I don't want Bryce Mitchell to get fired. I don't want him to get, in trouble or released or anything like that. I just find I was surprised that Dana came out so forceful with his response because over the last couple of years, he hasn't done that. So you can tell that he was somewhat bothered by this rhetoric. What I'm curious about is the decision to not do anything past that, because ultimately Dana likes to talk about freedom of speech. And he likes to say that in America, you should be allowed to say whatever you want, including hate speech. And he's right. That is the Second Amendment. You cannot be arrested for saying stuff like Bryce Mitchell said. But as the owner and the president of a company, you can make the decision to say, I don't want my company to be associated with this type of rhetoric. I don't want the article on FoxNews.com or CNN.com or the WashingtonPost.com to say UFC fighter Bryce Mitchell said X, Y, and Z about Hitler and the Jews. You can make that decision. And they have chosen not to make that decision. And they have chosen to say, you could say whatever you want here. Now, I think that's a calculated decision until it hits the bottom line and hurts the bottom line, meaning sponsors pull out. ESPN says we don't want to do business with you, or any other prospective broadcasters say we don't want to do business. They will allow this to continue to happen. And I also think, Chael, and I'm sorry for going long here, I think part of the reason why you don't, if you're the UFC, punish a Bryce Mitchell on Thursday is because then on Friday, Conor McGregor is dropping N-bombs, and if you punish Bryce on a Thursday, you got to then do something to Conor, and you don't want to do something to Conor because he's still the biggest draw, and so it's easier to just do nothing and hope that it doesn't affect the bottom line, and guess what? It hasn't, and so they will continue to allow this. It's a very interesting discussion, and I don't have like a final point. I don't have a thesis other than I'm just kind of reacting to what's happening in front of our eyes and somewhat new territory for us as MMA fans.
I really appreciate that, particularly your last two sentences, because I find that with myself as too. I've got very strong opinions and very good observations of this, but I don't quite know my final analysis yet. Ariel, if you were to release Bryce Mitchell, Dana White can now do nothing with Bryce Mitchell. He wouldn't even speak to him again. There is a checks and balances in this, and so if you release a guy, which is the final straw. What have you really done? Did you punish him? Oh yeah, you bet you have. But what did you really do? And now you're letting him do other things, as opposed to if you have him, I suspect that he will be in classes for this. I've seen some things that have happened from gay slur standpoints, and fighters so many times think they can use this word that starts with an F and that it just means wimp. But it doesn't mean wimp, and it really hurts some people's feelings. But I will tell you, the UFC, even if quietly, every one of those guys that use that word started taking classes on it. They would donate some level of money, and there would be events. And I only share with you that while they don't ever talk about that, there is a checks and balances. Bryce Mitchell, whatever sponsors he had, partner, they're gone, and they're not coming back. I mean, there is some real fallout.
Do you think so, Chael? Because I've seen a lot of support for him, if I'm being honest. I've actually seen, I don't know, maybe I'm looking in the wrong places. I've seen more support than criticism, to be honest. Yeah. And so I can imagine there's some like red-blooded, company out there that says this is the guy that we want representing us. So I don't actually know if there's that type of ripple effect for him.
Sure. And yes, I think that you're looking in the wrong spot. Even the demographic that you laid up, like that Southern and that red-blooded, that farmer, all vote red, and the red stands with Israel, not even a maybe. The red is the only one that's never blinked on that. I'm just sharing with you. Before we get too much of a political speech, I think you might have been looking in the wrong spots. Like this is going to be very detrimental to Bryce. Not to mention, Bryce could go lose a couple of fights and maybe still have a contract. He's not in that spot, whether Dana says it or not. Bryce steps out of line one time and gives him the reason to do it without blaming it on this. He's going to be telling his story walking, man. There are checks and balances here, whether the boss chooses to handle it publicly a certain way or not. He is not okay with what was said. That I can assure you.
No, and it did seem authentic. Could I ask, in the early days, you remember Miguel Torres getting released, albeit for a week or so because of a very insensitive joke that he tweeted. You remember Frank Mir losing his Versus job because he said he was going to kill Brock Lesnar. I remember Matt Mitrione on my show making some jokes about Fallon Fox, the transgender fighter, and Dana suspending him. I remember Nate Diaz using that F word and he got slapped on the wrist. That doesn't happen anymore. And so I'm wondering, why do you think that is? Why are there no quote-unquote repercussions for these types of actions? And you can make a case that what was said on Thursday was worse than all of that combined.
Well, and Ariel, in light of this, I mean, this is the final bar. Like, there's only a few things in life you can't say. There's a word that starts with an N. There's the word that starts with an F. I have never seen somebody, no matter how smart they were, dance around and then bring Hitler and the Nazis into it. I have never seen that happen. I got held after in class. You want to know what inspired me? I got held after in class one day. I was 20 years old. I was in my sophomore year. And I referred to somebody, and I called him a feminazi. And that was a word that was out there. Somebody was using, I think it was Rush Limbaugh, but somebody was using this term, this feminazi. And the teacher just after class, college is very different than high school where they sit you down or something like that. But he said, why don't you stick around? So I stuck around, and he was a Jewish guy, and he said, I heard you say a term, something Nazi earlier. I said, oh, yeah, feminazi. Yeah, I was proud of my word. And the person that I was upset with, the teacher was also upset with. We were upset at the same person. And he just very calmly, he said to me, do you know what the Nazis did? And I said, yeah. And he goes, do you think comparing that person to the Nazis is adequate? And I never said it again. I learned my lesson, right? There's something that happens in your life when you learn. And I'm only sharing for you, I'm not positive that the Wild West that it appears is going to last. I'm not positive of that. I think there is going to be something that is being put into place now that wasn't previously in place. And then where do you go from there? I don't know that you cut everybody or all of a sudden they don't get TV time or they don't get the opportunity. I'm not sure about that as far as being equitable. But we've had a number of other things all the way down to taxes and insurance and things that it turned out fighters didn't know. And there's classes for all that stuff now. And even though that doesn't get made public, man, all that stuff now has courses you take.
What do you make of what's become of Conor? Every
Can
day.
you appreciate what I just said?
No,
you appreciate that?
I love everything about it.
Yeah, because it's hard, right? It's a hard. It makes people uncomfortable. It's hard, and I'm much like you. I don't have a final analysis. I can just tell you, I don't think they're actually looking the other way as much as it might appear.
Yeah, I would like to think so. But again, I think sometimes people think that when I bring this stuff up and talk about it, it's because I want to see a Bryce Mitchell get punished. The only thing I would love to see happen to Bryce Mitchell, honestly, I would love for Bryce Mitchell to go to Poland and spend a day in Auschwitz and tell me afterwards if your research holds up. I don't know where he's finding this stuff, but go there, walk into the gas chambers, look at the scratches on the wall, look at the mountains of ashes, look at the broken glasses and the suitcases and the dolls that they told the kids to pack as they were going on a trip, which was to the gas chambers, to the concentration camps, and then tell me if you think all of this was fake. Tell me if you think all of this was made up. Tell me if you think these numbers are inflated. I would love to ask you, and it's not the same topic, but it's still a bit of an uncomfortable topic. What do you make of Conor, and what do you do with Conor if you're the UFC? Because it does seem like we're in a tricky spot here with him, to put it mildly.
Yeah. Well, and again, I'm glad that you worded it like that. And these they are very close, and including my final analysis, which is I'm still open to some debate on this. Historically speaking, criminal. Whatever is going on with the criminal courts, all the way down to if you're dismissed or you got a trial coming up, whatever it is, the organization will recognize that's between you and the courts. But whatever the final with the gavel comes, we're going to go on that. Whether we think you're innocent or we think we're going to honor what the courts do. That's historically, but that is not carried over to civil, and it's really never been tested to this degree. And the accusations and what it was found that he did with the rape and whatnot, it was very different when it was civil, and the intent was not to punish him by taking his time and freedom away. It was to have him write a check to you. I mean, it was just one of these things where nobody really knew how they were going to handle it. And then the ultimate suggestion is to go to Dana and say, hey, got to release the guy. And Dana has a hard time explaining that to the audience. Like, hey, if I'm personally pissed off at the guy, if I release him, there's nothing. I have no ability. Right now, I got him under contract. And if I'm personally upset with him, I don't have to fight him, which, by the way, I'm not. And Dana explained that to a degree, but he was letting people know, like, it's not a matter of release Conor and let Conor go somewhere. If I release him, he goes somewhere else. He becomes a big star for somebody. He's with me, and I'm not using him. He's sitting on Ireland watching the show on pay-per-view like everybody else. Like, there's a level of that makes a lot of sense. And I don't always see where we're giving up on a guy or washing your hands of him. I don't really see where that is always the most effective. I don't know that I get that argument.
Do you think we see
and politicians have this too. We have politicians that are mad at Russia. So because they're mad at Russia, they refuse to meet with Putin. And it was Barack Obama himself that came out and said, hey, this idea that we're punishing Putin by not talking to him is not true. Let's sit down. Let's tell our side and see if we can get somewhere. But we're not just going to ignore him like a kid in high school. That's a quote from Barack Obama. I think Obama makes a lot of sense.
No, and I don't think the UFC is going to cut him or release him. I mean, that's bad business if we're just being 100% honest. Do you think we see him fight again? Do you think we see him fight in the UFC again?
Oh, no. Ariel, he pulled out of his last fight, which was a record gate. He beat all of his own gate records. They said they had 25 million waiting for them for the live gate, and they still had $2 million worth of tickets to sale. I mean, I'm just sharing, like, he is over and he is a star, and he was very much needed. And he pulled out of a fight. Dude, he pulled out of a press conference where they took an American company to Ireland, played the video game like everybody, and set up shop. I mean, it's a big deal to leave him hanging right there. Ariel, the official reason he did that is for a discolored pinky toe, which may or may not be broken and may or may not be his. He didn't take a picture of himself with the toe. He took a picture of a toe and posted it online, and it was discolored and purple, and I'm sure it was very sore, but with no evidence that it was broken or any evidence that it was even his. If you pull out of a fight because of a discolored pinky toe, which may or may not be yours and may or not be broken, you're not fighting again. That's just the truth.
Do you have any interest in him in this, Logan Paul, Jake Paul world, this influencer world? This seems to be of great interest to him.
No, I don't. And a lot of that, though, would come from jealousy. I mean, if I was to look at it and go, hey, wait a minute, you can make $100 million boxing guys that aren't even boxers. Like, there's going to be a part of me that looks at it like that. You're going to pull out of a fight against Chandler, do what you did to Chandler, and then you're going to fall forward into something that I don't want that to be true. I want to be above that. But there would be a part where I go, wow, it's just not generally that way that game is supposed to be played. No, Ariel, you got to understand, whatever adult, and everybody will have this on, every commission, everybody involved in this, whatever adult allows Conor McGregor to return with the same exact injury that Chris Weidman had. Now, Chris Weidman being possibly the most disciplined guy in the sport, Conor being the most undisciplined guy in the sport, Chris Weidman doing everything right, from rehab to taking his time to focusing to being at home at night and going to bed and getting rest on his leg. He did everything right and did not return as somebody that could follow the basic rule, which was to protect himself at all times, right? That hindered repaired leg was that big of an obstacle. But we're supposed to believe that Conor not only can return from the same thing, he can return better. And we think he's going to be better because we're not booking him in 3-round fights. We're booking him exclusively in 5-round main events. So he is going to have to perform at a much higher level than the All-American. Ariel, the laws of logic disqualify that. The basic rule is protect yourself at all times. Conor McGregor is not in a position with anybody under contract at the UFC to protect himself at all times. It's a silly proposition, and that is just the truth.
I love these chats with you, Chael. I really do. I mean,
but that is just the truth. Like, there's not another way to say it. I also went in on the Conor business. I also want to cover him and have him back. It's different when he's there. I acknowledge the fun, but if you're talking about any level of responsibility, you can't book him, and you definitely can't book him in a 5-round fight. That's insane.
Will we see Izzy fight again?
Yes. And I say it like that.
Well, yeah, why?
I say it like that because that guy has no idea. Do you remember Alexander Gustafsson when he comes out and decides he's going to retire?
Mm-hmm.
I remember being so irritated. It's like, Gus, you don't know this sport. You're not one of us. Don't act like you're one of us. Gus only did main events. Gus only did 5-round fights. Gus only was headlining or was having to do fights in Sweden where he's carrying the media and the whole gate. It's like, Gus, there's another sport out there. It's called 3-round MMA. But that's a different sport. 5-round MMA, 5-round practice, 5-round run, 5-round training sessions is completely different than 3-round practice, 3-round runs, 3-round training sessions. So it's like, Gus, before you wash your hands of this sport, how about you try it in a way that the rest of us get to experience in a normal situation? And I only say that because Adesanya is a little bit in the same way, Errol. He has never not main evented. He has not never been on top of the bill. He has not fought for the title since going back. I mean, my goodness, it's when they did 57,000 live and it was him versus Whitaker first time in Australia. That was better part of a half a decade ago. And there is another life out there for 3-round fights. But one thing that Izzy needs is a genuine motivation to want to beat that guy up. He has to have that. That's how Yoel got his opportunity. Izzy has. It's what cost Izzy in the Strickland fight. As much as he tried to get into character, that wasn't the fight he wanted. That wasn't the guy that he was angry at. That was not Dricus du Plessis, and it cost Izzy. And right now, Izzy's got no beef. He's got no heat with anybody. He can try to manufacture it like he did with Strickland or like he did with Imanov over the weekend. But that's not who he is. Like John Jones right now cannot retire. I mean, if you said, would it be a good time to retire? No, it'd be terrible. He's got an interim champion. Or if you used Alex Pereira, it'd be the terrible time to retire. He's got a signed contract with a guy who's favored to beat him. But Izzy doesn't have those things. Izzy's story, if he would like for it to be complete and written, it is. Right now is the perfect time for Izzy to walk away, should he choose to.
Wow. Yeah. I mean, other than the money, you're right. There are no real beefs that need to be played out. And I said this yesterday, and I'd love who better than you to ask this question. I said that the UFC has a superstar shortage. I don't say they have no superstars on the horizon. They obviously have Topuria. They have Islam. Merab could get there if he continues to win. Sean comes back. We'll see. Sugar, that is. Sean Strickland has a fan base. But I do, with Izzy not around, with Conor not around, with John Jones being on his last chapter, these were superstars over the last few years, right? Do you agree that there's a superstar shortage right now? And by the way, I say this while also acknowledging that the biggest star in the UFC is Dana White, that people adore him, that the biggest draw in the UFC are those 3 letters. They don't necessarily need superstars. That's the wild thing about all of this. They have become so popular and such a behemoth to our previous conversation that they don't need it. But if you actually just look at the rankings and the pound for pound, there is a bit of a shortage, is there not?
Sure, and you left off Patty the Batty, who not for nothing, but if you want a reaction from the crowd, he's as popular as anybody they got right now. And Errol, that's very in line with what's going on at WWE right now. Like there are a number of veterans, but as far as having, like, remember when The Rock came back last year, but we really needed him, or the year before that, and The Rock came back, but we really needed him. They've got so many great guys, but I do hear you on that. Like when I was growing up, it was Hulk Hogan and Big Step and everybody else. And at some point, it was the Ultimate Warrior for, about a year and a half. But Big Step down, everyone else. Most of my life, it was Hogan, Ric Flair, Big Step down, though, and everybody else. And I just bring that because, to your point, man, they are doing business. They are turning this thing around. They got a show coming up in Seattle, which is right up the road for me in a couple of weeks. But you got Dominic Cruz on there. You got Henry Cejudo on there. That's going to be on free television. Like, they've got these guys. They have so much talent and so many names. But as far as that superstar, that Connor or that Kimbo Slice, yeah, sure, you're right. They're limited.
Couple more, and I'll let you go. Just curious. Backstage in Tampa, you and Hogan, did you talk? Did you kibitz? Did you break bread? Any conversations?
I'm so glad somebody's finally asked me about that.
Oh.
Do you know what that's like in my perspective? So I go and buy tickets with my buddy Justin Wolf in the 6th grade, and we go down in person to G.I. Joe's, which had a Ticketmaster. That used to be the name of the company. I think now it's like Live Nation. And we look at the schematic of the building, and we're only 11. We don't totally understand blueprints, so we got to figure out where the ring is, which way it faces, because we want on the aisle so we can touch the guys. When they walk in, we want to be that's holding up the high five. So we get them. Everything's cool in the gang. Everything is going my way. In fact, not only do I get to see Hulk Hogan wrestle, I get to see him wrestle Andre the Giant.
Wow.
Like, everything is going my way. I touch Andre on his way to the ring. I touch him on the way back. I even turn to my friend Justin. I show him the sweat on my hand from Andre. There's Hogan. Here he is. He's within reach. He's right there. I reach out. Somehow I missed him. Somehow. Oh my God. I couldn't believe. I told my buddy touched him. So I missed him. Like, oh my God, I missed. I don't know how I missed. He's like, how you? Anyway. So then all these years later, I get to be in the locker room with him and on a level working with him. And Ariel, he was so respectful. When he walked in, I thought he and Colby were like old buddies. That's what I just assumed. So when Hogan comes in and Colby comes over and says hello, it was very clear they were just meeting for the first time. So I'm trying to figure out this dynamic. And then Colby tells him, Hulk, when the camera comes on, I want it on you. I'm playing your music when we come out. I want you waving the flag. Me and the team will be right behind you. Get a little bit of a head start. And Hogan stopped him. And Hogan said, this is the very first thing he said. I mean, he doesn't know anyone in the room. And Hogan said, you're going too far. And he said, this is not my night. This is your night. I back you up. And he refused to go out first. And it turned into a thing where Colby's like, well, I actually know I want this played, and then I'm going to come rip the shirt off. Like, I got that, but it's important that you go first holding the flag. And Hogan said, I will not do it.
Wow.
And they compromised that Hogan would go side by side with him. But Hogan would absolutely not go in front. And I just thought that was incredible leadership. I thought for him to walk into a room where he was a little bit caught off guard and then turn down some of the lights, I was impressed. That might sound like a simple move. It was a cool move.
Do you want to see Colby fight again?
Yes, for goodness sakes. I mean, here's the thing. That fight was starting to go so well. I mean, it really was. And no one knows what the ceiling is on Joaquin Buckley. Like, we don't have evidence yet that he's not going to be a world champion. He's incredible. Colby's got his flap of skin. It's hanging down over his eye. So there's blood pouring out. You can't see anyway. But then there's a flap of skin that is blocking. Like, if you made all the blood stop, you can't see because you got a flap of skin. The reason that George Masvidal won his first fight with Colby in the streets and he lost his second fight with Colby in the ring is because Colby couldn't see him the first time. He came up from behind in disguise. Like, if you want to, and then it's not even close when Colby can see him. Like, it's not too much for me to want my guy to be able to see. Right? I mean, that's not like some big request by me. So Colby goes out there. It's still going his way. He's still upset when that fight gets stopped. He's completely fresh. I mean, I'm talking to him in the ring. He could go 2 more rounds very easily. I'm just sharing, like, he is so damn tough, and he was even tougher than I knew he was. I've known him his whole life. I did not know he was that. I didn't know he was the guy that could fight with his eyeball falling out. They had to take him in the back, 2 different doctors, Dr. Davidson and the head doctor in Florida, and it was a 2-man crew where they're sewing him up and trying to get all of this to stop. I mean, it was a very big deal. He didn't mind. He didn't mind at all. He was just mad he didn't win the fight. And he doesn't need to fight again. But will he likely fight again? Yes. Will he likely fight again against Gilbert Burns?
Oh.
Also a yes.
Okay. A little bit of news. Last thing. You told our guy Drake yesterday that you got this offer from GFL. They wanted you, but you have to know when to say when. Did you seriously consider it? Did you have a chat with the family? Were you close to saying yes and then change your mind? Or was it just one of those, hey, I'm flattered, thank you, but I'm out?
Yeah, and boy, I wish I had a better story to tell you. No, it wasn't like that. And by the way, I don't fully know what the GFL was proposing. I never fully understood if it was a promotional standpoint, maybe through the YouTube or the podcast and just get them out there. Maybe it was be live and help to commentate, and maybe it was to coach a team or to go right on the roster. I wasn't completely clear, but I was glad that they called. I mean, not for nothing. They were calling all these other guys, and I was hearing about it. My phone hadn't rang yet. And then you start to feel a little bit felt left out. That's true. And no. So, no, there wasn't a massive consideration. I don't fully know what they need. And I could not imagine doing anything again. I've always felt like my career would not be over until I had fought Wanderlei Silva and Vitor Belfort. And I can't fully tell you why, but I had always thought that. In fact, John Anik even said that to me way over in our Fox days. He said, well, Chael, your career will never be complete. Till you rematch Anderson Silva, you fight Wanderlei, and you fight Vitor Belfort. And I just accepted that. When he said it in that moment, that became my destiny. And I never had the Vitor fight. And it does cross my mind. From time to time, it will cross my mind and think, how did we never quite match up? We had a contract one time. We had a signed contract. But how did we never quite match up? So that one would be the one that would make me at least think, or as you say, sit down with the family. You know, I don't really sit down with the family. I'm in charge of this family.
Sure.
I don't need to ask anyone what they're doing. They come to me. There's a reason they call me daddy, Ariel. You understand that?
No, I understand.
Daddy will make those decisions. But sometimes I pretend that I want to hear from them.
Chael, there's a young man who works on my my program here. We have a great team here at Uncrowned. We're building a great thing here. I don't know if you've heard about it, but his name is Jordan Kamzan. We call him On Air Jordan. And I don't know if you know this, but he used to work at ESPN with Corporate Jake and Elizabeth and Nick and the whole team over there. And there was he was a producer, worked on our show. And you used to hit him up from time to time, thinking, he told this story on the program last week, thinking that he is who? Jordan Coker. Yes, the son of Scott Coker. So you would ask him for Bellator footage. He told us this great story on the program. And so he's in the back. He's in the control room right now. Is there anything you want to say? He actually would, I think he would keep the jig up. I don't think he
I got him right here.
There it is. Yeah.
I have my text message with him right here.
Did he not reply?
Can I just jump? Yeah, can I just jump in on your story real fast?
Go ahead, yeah.
So precisely what you said, but I was building Submission Underground. And the reason that's relevant is the UFC owns that. So when I would go to him and need this content, the UFC would say to me, it would be this beautiful Bellator content. And they're like, are you sure we have the right to do this? It's like, absolutely. This is straight from Jordan Coker. And that was it. They didn't make me supply or prove or get, a lot of times they like a little something signed. When it came from Jordan, man, that was it. And he was so good. He was so Johnny on the spot where I'm trying to edit something, or he would get that stuff back. It could be a Sunday morning at 8 a.m. Jordan would turn these things around and get them to me. So then I find out over time that that's Jordan from ESPN, which I guess got saved in my phone just as Jordan. It's not Jordan Coker's number. Turned out I don't even have Jordan Coker's number. And yeah, that's the story. I think that's the one that you just told,
yes,
but that's
the
story.
It.
And I've always been so appreciative that Jordan never treated me. I mean, if I bother him on a Sunday at 8 a.m., it's work for him, and he would always do it. And it's like, I've never even thanked him properly, but I was very grateful and still am.
Well, there you have it. He writes on the screen right there, let him know if you need more Bellator footage. He's
That's
here.
Awesome.
And
that is so funny.
I think he appreciates the thank you. And I thought you were wondering maybe perhaps what happened to him. Now you know. He's a part of the team here.
I appreciate that. I was wondering. I know that you guys are building something great. So it doesn't surprise me that you got great people like Jordan. You got a great staff all around, by the way. I was talking with Eric earlier today. I mean, all around you got a great staff. I really saw that the first time. First off, you've invited me in to the new vertical, as you call it. But I got to be part of your debut out in Las Vegas.
Oh, that was fun.
And got to see the team when they came in numbers to get that right. Boy, did they pull that off. They really respected you in this program, by the way. That rollout that they gave you, wow.
That was nice of you to do. We've shared many great memories. Of course, who could forget the beef short rib that we shared with Liev Schreiber just a couple of months ago at the Teddy Atlas Foundation dinner? That was a great time. One of the many great nights that we've had together, Chael. He was
very nice.
It was great.
He was very nice, that guy.
He was amazing. And I loved how excited you were to speak to him. I don't often see you excited. And then the highlight of my night was one of the greatest college basketball coaches of all time, coach of the two-time defending national champion UConn Huskies, Dan Hurley, the great Dan Hurley, just glowing, giddy over the idea of getting to shake your hand and meet you. And I was able to make that introduction. This guy is an uber fan of yours and a legend of the college basketball game, two-time defending national champion, wanting to meet you above all the legends up there. That was a delight.
I'm sorry to shake my head, yes, but yeah, you introduced it, and that did make me feel good. I had no idea that he would, and basketball and MMA don't always cross over. Or maybe I don't say the nicest things about basketball. He knew that. He knew the things I said about basketball, but he was still into it. Now, that was a big thrill. That was a real thrill to meet him, but boy, did Teddy Atlas ever pull that event off. I met Larry Holmes that night. In fact, Larry was rude to me. Michael Spinks, who fought Mike Tyson for 91 seconds back when I was a little kid, man. These guys were all there. It was really cool. Arturo Gotti had his son was there. And yeah, it was awesome, man. That was a heck of an event. And Lee was so nice, by the way. He was such a regular guy, and that does not happen very often. There's generally is something like, be careful when you meet these guys because you leave disappointed. He was so normal. He was just having a conversation with a regular guy. That was great. That really was great to sit by him.
Yeah, and a real fight fan, too. It was amazing. Chael, I love you like a brother. Thank you so much. God bless you. God bless your family. I don't know if your wife is still there, but my regards to her as well. And thank you for the time. Thank you for the time. And we look forward to The Ultimate Fighter. When do you go out there?
You want to say hi to Ariel? Oh, come on.
She's still here one whole hour?
She's too embarrassed. Will you just say hi?
Come on, Miss Brittany. Say hi. Don't be shy. Come on.
She's not coming. I can tell. She has that look on her face where she's really...
She's like, drop it.
Coming. Thank you for wishing me the luck on the Ultimate Fighter. Don't need it. It's just Daniel, but we will have a good time. I will get my guys and most likely his guys in a right position so that they can be ready for the UFC, and that's what this is all about. Thank you, Helwani.
Peace out, Chael. Thank you so much. Good luck to you. Kaboom. There he is, the great Chael P. Sonnen. One of the great friends in my life, despite some of our differences, has been nothing but a true loyal friend, and I hope he feels the same about me. Despite some of our differences. I will never forget the first couple episodes of Ariel and the Bad Guy back at the mothership. And I remember tweeting something to the effect of like a kid who writes home to his parents, like, hey, everyone, camp is doing well. I miss you. I'm fighting with my bunkmates, something like that, because the first couple episodes were rough because we weren't quite meshing. And I think part of the reason was, if I do say so myself, he wasn't used to me debating him or arguing with him. He was used to kind of this dynamic where I tee him up and ask him questions. And I think he was a little bit perturbed by my takes on the business because I've never made that walk like him. But there is only one Chael P, and I do truly love him and appreciate him, and always enjoy those chats. And that was another great one. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did. I think we could finally put the mystery of the Bellator footage to bed, Jordan. Does that suffice for you? Do you feel good about that?
Yeah, I feel pretty good. I mean, I love Chael no matter what.
All right.
Or Cam's hand,
That's right. That's right. Great stuff from Chael, and I appreciate him giving us an hour. And his wife is really salt of the earth. I mean, does anyone's significant other, am I the only one that doesn't get this type of treatment? Do any of you guys get your clothes laid out for you in the morning or when you go on a trip? I mean, I've never heard of such a thing. Apparently, it's pretty common over there. By the way, I didn't even realize, I thought it was just trips. I didn't realize it was a regular Tuesday morning occurrence. I thought, all right, he doesn't know how to pack. He doesn't want to be, stressed about it. Every day?
Respect.
I'm not as rich as Chael.
Yeah,
he's a rich man, and he's got the money to have the never have to wash the underwear and never have to wash the.
My mom
socks.
used to do it for me back in the day.
Yeah,
she actually required me to wear a collared shirt to school at least twice a week. Couldn't wear t-shirts every day.
Really?
Yeah.
Why twice, not three times?
I don't know. Tuesdays and Thursdays were polo days. Monday,
Really?
Wednesday, Friday was.
Wow.
And all throughout elementary school, Fridays were actually Hawaiian shirt days.
Come on,
Yo,
stop.
I was dripped up. Had a little bit of the baby fat on me. Hawaiian shirts every Friday. Yeah, I was a killer back in the day.
No matter the season?
No matter the season. I was like the husky kid that wore shorts no matter what.
Dare I say you were Action Bronson-esque?
Yeah. Cut from the same cloth.
Wow. You would wear shorts? I mean, you grew up in Atlanta, so how cold does it really get?
I mean, it gets cold. Like last week when it was like single digits here, it was like 14 or 15 in Atlanta.
Oh, Fahrenheit. I was thinking Celsius. Okay, wow. All right,
so we are in America.
Yeah, no, I forgot. It's just my brain just goes. Yeah, my mom would lay it out like first grade, second grade. I certainly don't do it now. Even
I would
for my
hope
kids.
I mean, maybe
I'm not gonna lie. I'll be totally real. Like 7th grade.
7th grade.
Yeah, mom was still throwing them out there for me.
Wow. And then what? Like, how did it end? What happened?
I got shoved in a locker or something.
Yeah,
No, I'm just kidding.
He saw merch, and then he was like, "I need to pick my own."
I had to get my own swag, my own identity.
My favorite part of all of that is her in the background saying, "Of course." Like, this is a crazy thing to even question. Of course, I do it on a random Tuesday.
Who knows what Chael would be wearing without her?
That's right. That's a good point.
Maybe that's what
There's no
started.
telling.
Maybe nothing.
That could be it. That could have been what started this. She hated the outfits he was picking out.
She took control of the situation.
Took matters into her own hands.
Yeah.
Guys, I wanted to bring up another thing as we round third here on this lovely Tuesday, and of course we play 2 on Tuesdays, 5 o'clock. Ariel and Ade on DAZN Boxing's YouTube channel. Yeah, there it is. And do want to let you know, arielhelwani.substack.com is the place to be to send in questions for tomorrow's On the Nose. That post will be up in a matter of minutes. And arielhelwani.com is the place where you can get your official merch. There's more to come on arielhelwani.com. Some very exciting things in the works over at arielhelwani.com. So please do stay tuned. And don't forget that uncrowned.com is your #1 home for all things combat sports. I love when we go through these. And thumbs up to the chat. Yes, some amazing stuff over at uncrowned.com over the last few days. Killer stuff. Patchy Mix has asked for his release from the PFL, walking in the same footsteps as one Patricio Pitbull. I don't know how well this is working out for Patricio, to be honest, but he has posted this. He posted this, I believe, yesterday. Right now, I'm 31 years of age. And by the way, I do believe he is out in Australia with Tatiana Suarez, his significant other. And there's maybe a part of him that sees everything that she is getting right now, the attention, the buzz, the spotlight, the hoopla of being a part of a UFC title fight and saying, I need this, I want this. I spent my last 6 years, he writes, of my life fully dedicated to Bellator. I worked extremely hard and sacrificed everything to win the Grand Prix and become a 3-time world champ. Now with the promotion gone, I'm exactly champion of what? I've always showed up to put it on the line, never turned down a single fight. Right now, in perspective, as a healthy world champion, I fought just once, going on 15 months. All my momentum in my career has been lost, as this is the longest layoff of the 31 fights I've had between amateur and pro. He later goes on to say, I ask this with the utmost respect and urgency from, I do believe that's Don Davis and the PFL. Is DSCCT Don Davis? Perhaps. Please release me from my contract so I can perform to make money and do what I have to do to support my family. I'm in the prime of my career. I'm the best. He fights at 135, by the way. I should be able to compete against the other best fighters in the world and not be on the shelf. If the sky was the limit, I'm on the moon right now, skill-wise, and there should be only one octagon I display my skill set in. Plus, the ambassador for PFL's Francis Ngannou, I'm a world champion out of the same gym, and you personally see how hard I work and tried to be a leader for this team. This is no way to treat a champion. Release Patchy Mix. And so PFL is now faced with another one of these. And this is part of the byproduct of, one guy gets loud, he asks for his release, you oblige, others are going to try and follow suit. There's no doubt about it. They all want to be in the UFC. PFL has to, at some point, hold the line so that there isn't like a revolution and an uprising and everyone wants out. And so if I were the PFL brass, I would say, all right, let's make a deal. In the spirit of Luka Doncic getting traded to the Los Angeles Lakers after it appears as though the Mavericks, at least what they're telling us through their media guys, grew tired with him If I'm Don Davis or Pete Murray, I call up the UFC and say, I got this guy. Let's make a deal. He wants out. We're willing to give him up. Let's make a deal. And maybe that deal even includes someone else. Throw in a Dakota. Let's make a blockbuster trade. What is a trade that if you are the UFC, you would offer? And what is a trade that if you are the PFL, you would accept for Patchy Mix? Who fits the bill? Or, and this is for you guys, the boys in the back, if you're the PFL, do you not do this? Or if you're the UFC, do you not partake in this? I think we should see more trades in combat sports, and in particular in MMA, because it's a lot more exclusive with the contracts and people don't jump over like we see in boxing. Promoters don't co-promote. If I'm PFL, I at least explore this. I say, all right, you want out? Let's make a deal.
Yeah, 100%. He's not value to them being unhappy. And also, unless something has changed, they haven't been able to find suitable opponents for him to this point, right? He would have already been fighting. It seems like he's been sidelined for one reason or another. If you have somebody for him, offer it to him. If you don't, I'd say, yeah, look to explore something. The problem is, does the UFC need to give anything for that, or can they just wait it out? You know, can they just wait?
They can wait it out. I mean, Patchy Mix isn't changing their business.
Who would you even trade also? Do you do a bantamweight? Do you just do anyone?
Doesn't have to be a bantamweight. Remember, the only time we've ever seen a trade was Demetrius for Askren, and they weren't the same weight class.
Honestly,
maybe could have put Rosenstrike in the trade block.
I was literally going to say some of the ones that they'd probably want are the ones you just let walk out the door anyway. So I don't know what the UFC's motivation.
We need like a trade machine, like to see if it's plausible, similar to like the NBA and NFL have.
Like, could PFL have used a Chris Weidman? Jairzinho Rosenstrike, like all these
Tony
names,
Ferguson,
Tony
Ferguson
that just went out the door.
You know what? It's not a bad shout.
If
you're the UFC, would you?
I just wait. Just wait.
Just for fun. Just for fun.
This will end poorly,
Waiting
and I
is
will
not
get
fun.
him.
If you're the UFC, just throwing it out there, Colby Covington for Patchy Mix, do you do it?
No.
Yeah, I don't think so either.
I would do it if I'm the PFL.
Yeah, sure, but Patchy Mix is not going to fight for you anymore.
Is Colby Covington going to fight for the PFL also?
No, you get him on board. This is in a world. I'm just going off of the blockbuster trade that we had. In a world where if you're unhappy in the NBA, you're getting shipped, and if you get shipped, you have to play, and if you don't play, you don't get paid, right? So let's just pretend like all these guys are unhappy, right? Do they just think that in our world, right? If I'm unhappy with this arrangement that we have with Yahoo, and I say, you know what, I don't want to do this anymore, I'm not getting paid because I'm now breaching my contract. Now, he could say they're not giving me fights, and who knows what's going on behind the scenes, and their season is about to start in 2 months. So I would imagine he would be a part of it, and he asks, I'm a champion of what now? He should just be a champion of Bellator. Like, it's just very easy. Just, excuse me, a PFL. They don't have a 35 division. Just make him the 35 champ. But it's about to start, so I would imagine he's getting a fight. If he doesn't want to fight, you don't get paid, you don't get to fulfill a contract, and you certainly don't get to walk out the door and go to the competitor, right? So let's make a deal. What is a deal that you would make if you're the PFL? I would take the Colby trade.
If you're the PFL, of course.
I wouldn't take that if I was the UFC, though.
Okay, so we haven't found a winner. Would you do... I'm just throwing it out here.
Yeah.
Would you do Jamal Hill?
Again, I don't think the UFC is doing this.
No.
Think about the upside that Patchy... How old's Patchy Mix?
But what's...
At 31,
I'm losing Jamal Hill is the problem.
20 and 1, 7-fight win streak.
Listen.
Here's the thing. You know what? The Askren for DJ trade was the perfect trade.
Mm-hmm.
It was the perfect trade.
There is a perfect trade out there. I'm finding
because you're getting Askren as a foil to some of your guys who can talk the shit and
but also,
help you on the promotional side. But also, you're done with the DJ business. You no longer want... But if I have Jamal Hill or Colby, I probably want to keep them.
You guys have to tell me this, though. Was Askren begging to get out of one when the train happened?
He wasn't begging, but
tired.
It was like
tired.
It was like the road. You know, it came.
He was
to
done.
An end.
Yep.
Okay, Patchy Mix for Rose Namajunas.
That's doable.
That's not horrible.
Championship days are likely behind her. Big name.
opponent for Dakota.
That's what I'm saying.
Okay,
I'm working here. I'm working here.
Okay.
You make that trade.
Trade machine savant over here.
I'm
That's not bad.
I'm trying to find something.
It's not terrible.
I think there's a trade that can be made.
And you know
That's
what?
not
She
terrible.
fits into that thing we were talking about earlier in terms of like the salary is probably pretty high for Rose, right? Whereas now we're entering territory like, is it worth paying her this money to keep her? Yeah, that's not bad.
If I'm the PFL, I'm like, all right, I got a great 35er, but who else do I really have at 35, right? Like,
yeah.
And
no, that's the problem.
It's not a bad route going the women's flyweight to get opponents for Ditcheva. Maybe get a package deal.
Is he a
Oh, I thought.
Sorry,
I thought you were saying is he?
You were saying is he?
You know what?
Is he a needle mover to where he's going to sell out a stadium in? I think he's from Buffalo.
Patchy Mix?
Yeah.
Yeah, he's.
I don't know if he's a needle mover like that, but he has the potential to be one. I mean, he's so good.
No, but I'm saying that's why. All right, you could get a Dakota versus Rose fight. I don't know.
I don't hate
Dakota
that
versus Rose fight. You know, at the UFC, you start selling MMA's next power couple, strawweight champion Tatiana Suarez, her boyfriend Patchy Mix.
Okay, throwing out another one. Just
that was a pretty good one. I'll give you credit there.
Patchy Mix for Aljamain Sterling.
No, stop. Come on.
Only because. Okay,
Aljamain just got to 45. Could there's plenty there still.
You think Aljamain would fight at 45 in PFL? I would assume. Yeah.
By the way, fast forward, or excuse me, rewind the tape to 2018. 18, yeah. Demetrius Johnson just fought for the UFC belt. He was their champion, and they traded him.
Yeah.
Like we're way past that with Aljamain.
Yeah. But from the UFC standpoint, this guy is begging to get out. I also I did confirm DSCCT is in fact Don Davis. No post since 2019 though.
On what?
Last post was actually Todd Gurley with a PFL shirt on.
Oh, and it's wow.
And then if you look at the comments, it's just people being like, "Release Patchy Mix, release Patchy,
Oh no,
free Patchy."
Oh, I guess because they clicked on.
Yeah, but even from 8 weeks ago, people were saying free Patchy.
Damn. By the way,
shout out Todd Gurley.
Whatever happened to Todd Gurley? Is he still in the league?
It's a tough business being a running back in the NFL, man.
So he's out.
Can last long. Been out, bro. Been out.
Damn.
Dog. Great dog.
I still feel like you were onto something with the Rose one.
Yeah, like the Rose.
That could be.
Hey, that's the biggest one.
Text on that idea.
Corey Sanhagen.
Nah,
no,
I'm not doing that. Corey's got a bigger name than Patchy at this point.
Okay,
now,
throwing one out there. Jose Aldo.
I thought about that, but man, it's like it feels like he's too much of a legend to trade him. But
he's not only too much of a legend, but if I'm the PFL, what's his value to me? Like I want.
Also, dude, no. There is value for PFL because people get a hype for Jose Aldo fights. I mean, the amount of Mario Bautista
against
memes
who? Against
that
who?
have like come out.
Against who? Who we put in? Who
Alex
put in
Pereira
Jose?
Mario Bautista.
Jose Aldo versus who in the PFL?
Fuck, just you figure it out.
No, see, that's no.
Give him a winnable fight. Anyone. Winnable fight.
Rose is the one.
Who they put?
Okay. I'm throwing out another one.
Against?
Throwing out another one. Wonderboy Thompson.
Yeah, that's doable.
I just don't know if Wonderboy's doing that at his stage in his career.
This is. You have to suspend disbelief.
You're taking the business. You're taking the business out.
This is. They have to do it.
They're forced.
This is like Luka has to play. Davis has to play. Do you do that deal?
Yeah.
It's a fun game. I'm not gonna lie.
My worry is Wonderboy being like, I can just retire. I'm all good. Thanks.
If we're really treating it like that.
Yeah.
Shout out Wonderboy.
If we're really treating it like that, if I'm the PFL, I'm not taking any of these people back for Patchy.
Serious.
Patchy?
You get some name value. Patchy Mix is not, he's an incredible fighter, but he's not selling pay-per-views for you.
That's fine. I'm not giving up the Luka in this one.
Hey,
Patchy's the Luka. I'm not giving up
20-1. He's nasty.
By the way, Patchy is Anthony Davis. He's 31.
I'm saying, like, in this scenario,
age
Wonder Boy.
It's a Wonder Boy. Age is different in this game.
I get it.
Most champions are in their 30s.
I get it.
If you're going to give me a 26-year-old, then I'll take it.
Also, is 31 that old nowadays?
No, but I'm saying.
Am I that 25. Ancient now? Am I washed?
How old is, how old's Peyton Talbot? How old's that?
I think he's 27 or something.
Yeah, I'll do that if we want to do it.
Peyton Talbot for
You would do that already? You're off the...
I don't know.
No, man. There's the upside there with Peyton.
I don't know.
I'm saying, if I'm the
Bring
PFL.
Patchy Mix over.
Oh,
I'll take it.
Okay. But the UFC ain't doing that. I'm trying to think of something the UFC would do. Curtis Blades.
Nah, I'm holding Patchy on that.
Yeah.
It's hard. The Rose one's a good one.
That's the biggest. That's the best one.
The key there is that you have an opponent. You have the opponent. It's a big fight.
Okay, so we're trying to. That's a good point. We're trying to match her up with your biggest star, and their biggest star right now is Dakota, probably.
Makes
right?
sense. How about give me
Okay.
give me Cyril Gane, and then I'll just take over France. I'll put Cyril.
Yo.
I'll put
Yes.
Cyril and Cedric Doumbé on a card and just
You
take
think they
over
would do
France.
that? You think they would do
Let's
that?
do it. Why
Gane
not?
would be hyped about
I
that.
don't think they would do that.
Francis Ngannou, Cyril Gane.
Okay, how about this
Cedric
one? How about this
Doumbé,
one?
We're taking over.
Rafael Fiziev.
I don't know if
I'm
PFL
not-
is doing that.
The reason I'm asking you now is because I'm thinking, okay, who are the other big stars? You got Usman at 55. You have a potential great fight there.
I don't know if PFL is
You
gonna
cooked.
jump.
You cooked with Rose.
Yeah, I don't
Okay,
know
that
if
was
PFL is
it.
going to jump.
That
on
was
that.
it.
Okay, what about BSD? BSD France?
If I'm PFL, I'd say you want us to take over France, throw in Gane as well.
I need
Okay,
Gane.
okay.
I
What
need
about
Gane.
okay? Final
Manon
offer.
Fiorot. There's your fight right there.
Final
Manon
offer.
Fiorot versus Ditua in France.
Final offer.
Yeah.
Rose and BSD for Patchy.
Yeah, let's do it. Sign the papers.
Who are you speaking as right now?
Both. Let's get it
Okay,
done.
you're UFC, GC's Bellator or PFL. So Rick, UFC, you're doing this. You're unloading those two. Rose
I need-
and BSD for Patchy. That's the trade.
I need Patchy and I need some kind of future consideration.
No,
Something else.
It's 2-for-1. Patchy's got the upside. He's the champion. High ceiling. Tatiana's significant other. Power couple. Blah blah blah.
You want me to take a guy?
PFL.
You want me to take a guy coming off 2 straight losses and another
Face
fighter
of a
past the
market. One of the
championship
faces
days?
of a market.
Face
in
of
this,
a market.
Yeah,
We already have the face of the market.
we got
Cedric
another one.
Doumbé.
By the way,
Thank you. We already have the
I
face
think there
of the
might be a
market.
feud there between.
I'm
the two
leaving
of them.
this meeting. I appreciate
I'll take
that.
it.
When
I'll
you
take
come
it.
with a
I'll
real
take it.
offer,
Let's
you
go.
let me know.
Sign the-
Come
sign
with a
the-
real offer.
For real. You don't consider that, and you got an opponent for Rose.
Look, not only do we have the face of the market in France, we don't need BSD. We also have Todd Gurley wearing PFL.
See, here's the thing.
So
Connor's not playing this right because Connor has no leverage. Connor has zero
That's
leverage.
the issue. You would take whatever, right? Because Patchy Mix, all he wants to do is walk. Like I mean, you compared it to the Lucas situation, but it wasn't like Lucas like I'm never playing again for the Mavericks.
Yeah.
I'm never playing another.
It's more
another
like Jimmy
bucket.
Butler, actually.
It's just like you would take whatever you could get if a trade got proposed to you, especially if it involved Rose Namajunas and BSD. Like you would run to sign those papers because Patchy Mix is publicly posting, "Get me the fuck out of here. I need to leave here. I'm done with this place." So even if you got him for one fight, I feel like he would still be itching to leave after that.
As you talked about when we were talking about the Patricio stuff, it's like they're broadcasting here, so the UFC has a lot of leverage in their direction where they can just go, yeah, well, wait, if it happens, it happens. If it doesn't, it doesn't. But they want to be with us. You want to come to me. I don't have to come to you.
Sure, but if I'm the PFL, I'm just like tough noogie. You're staying with us.
That's what I would do if I was the PFL. I would not let Patchy Mix go if I was the PFL.
Well, that's why I say, okay, you're so unhappy. Let's make a deal. Let's improve our situation. You get to be happy. The UFC gets their guy. Like, why can't it be? Why does everyone just have to be released?
Look, I know we hate doing this, especially Rick hates doing it. The old IG follower game.
Oh, geez.
Yeah, tell me.
What's y'all's guess for Patchy Mix?
I'm going to say in the range of 16 to 25K.
I'm going to go 40K.
All right, you guys are both pretty close. 36K.
Oh, I was really
Yeah,
close.
wow.
You guys are really close.
Yeah, and okay, and by the way, what's BSD?
Benoit Saint
Over $1 million.
Denis 795,000.
Not bad.
Rose Namajunas
2 mil.
2.2 million.
Yeah, 2 mil.
I'm just saying, like, I know it's not an indicator of everything, but like it is partially an indicator of star power.
It is wild. Like you see, like MVP now. MVP was in Bellator forever, and then he posts something after his UFC fight, and it gets like insane likes that he would never touch in Bellator. So
I mean, he's touching $1 million now.
yeah, hell
And
yeah.
by the way,
115,
this is
141K on the ring post.
this is what Patchy Mix is saying, right? Like it's like if I can get into that machine, if I can be in the UFC, if I can leave this, this is what's awaiting me. He can find this fortune. He can find this fame and fortune if he's in the right system and has the eyeballs on him that he believes he deserves. I also believe he deserves it.
I also think you're making a great point with him being in Australia, probably with Tatiana right now, and seeing the treatment that she's getting and the opportunity that she has this weekend to become the champ, undefeated. Like, and the way he's getting treated at PFL, he is probably itching to get out.
Is there any way the PFL can make amends?
Sure, if they offer him something, but I think he probably watched what happened with Patricio. I think he sees how his I keep saying significant other because I'm not sure if they're married or not, so I don't want to, girlfriend, whatever, partner is being treated. I think he gets paid pretty well. So if they offer him something tomorrow, but I think everyone wants to be in the UFC, and you're kidding yourself if you believe otherwise. And that's the battle that the PFLs of the world are always going to have to fight. And that's why when Paul Hughes gets on the microphone and says, this is where I want to be because they believed in me, there's incredible value to that. But they all want to be in the UFC if they're being 1,000% honest. And so they have to make it right. Or they could just say, all right, we're not going to make it right. We don't want to be in the bantamweight division business, but we need to benefit from this. So let's make a deal. The other one is, and shout out to the chat, I see it on the YouTube chat, thumbs up, thumbs up.
They had a good one.
You need an opponent for Francis. And so you have to think, right? You have to think. Dakota's your star. Francis is your star. Maybe the Cyril Gane fight is.
Jairzinho too.
I think I got it. I got it.
Jairzinho too.
I got it.
Could have
Patchy.
thrown Rose strike on the trading block.
For who?
Derek Lewis.
What?
How much more are we getting out of Derek Lewis at this point?
We do Ngannou Lewis too.
Yeah.
Man, the promo for that one's gonna be.
I think there's something there is an appetite for that. It's better than anything else they have.
I mean, I'm watching it for sure.
I like Rose better, but I'm not opposed. I like Rose better, but I'm not opposed.
Do we think a trade happens? Period.
No.
I told you way back in the day there was some early preliminary discussions about two fighters. Did I ever say who the two fighters were?
No, you did not.
Oh, I didn't. It was Patchy and Usman. There were phone calls made. There were deliberations.
I like that.
When are we talking? Early days.
MMA needs more of a trademark.
When is this? Give me the timeline.
Pre-sale.
I want to wake up at 6 a.m. to trade news.
Yeah. I want a Helwani bomb.
Yeah.
Where everybody thinks it's fake. Like, holy shit, Patchy Mix got traded for.
I mean, I by the way, I broke the, you remember the Askren DJ. I remember exactly where I was. I was in the basement of ESPN, like the basement next to the digital section of that building. I don't remember what number it was.
Jordan's on his phone talking to Chael.
And I remember
I think it was building 2.
Was it building 2? And I remember typing it up and being like, this is absurd. And I remember my heart pounding because it seemed so absurd. Like I'm sure Shams felt the same way. Actually, I saw an interview with him where he said that he thought that he was being duped because it was so absurd. And I
love that idea.
Like, oh my God.
And when he got told the news, he was like, there's no way.
Yeah. That's how, I mean, obviously not to the same level, but it was unprecedented. What? Demetrius Johnson getting traded for Ben Askren? It makes no sense.
Yeah, I want to wake up to a Rose has been traded for Patchy Mix. She'll fight Dakota Ditchev on May 17th. And Patchy will fight.
I got it.
Corey Sanders.
I got the trade. I got it.
All right, lay it on.
I got it.
Come on.
Oh, what a deal. This is some of my greatest work. Patchy Mix traded to the UFC for the rights to Zabit Magomed Sharipov.
Oh, perfect.
What?
And then,
whose brother fights for them, right?
Yeah.
And who has been seen online with itchy feet. Did you guys see this?
Yeah, well,
this is it.
One of the great what ifs in MMA history. What could have been? Can we show this? Here it is. Look at Zabit. Do you know this man? Oh my God. The human highlight reel himself. Still got it.
And then they get the rights to Zabit, and then Zabit's like, yeah, I'm not fighting.
No. I'm Don Davis right now. I make a call. Zabit, you in? I'll trade Patchy Mix for Zabit. That's a guy you could build your business around, especially overseas. That might be it. No?
No, he's not fighting.
Yeah, I think he's just done, man.
I think that was his way of saying, tag me in.
I think that was,
I would love it.
Was that him saying, PFL, trade Patchy Mix for my rights, and I'll come back and fight?
A subliminal message, something. I mean, I felt like there was something there. I thought it was significant. That might be it. By the way, 145. Who's there? Oh, they don't have a 145 champion. Oh, maybe perfect. Right?
No, not perfect. That's the problem. We want only ones that.
Would Zabit fight Usman? Or are they boys?
I don't know. It's Rose. Rose is the one that makes the most sense. That was a good one.
Yesterday on the show, before we go, we had Terrence McKinney talking about the paint in the locker rooms. Well, on Twitter, we had a couple other fighters weigh in. Mike Davis weighed in about the paint in the locker rooms, the fumes, the smell, the oxygen. He, of course, fought and lost on Saturday. I'm telling you, I was not myself out there. I was out of breath, shadow boxing for the camera, felt like I was breathing through a tube the whole fight. And then we had Lucas Alexander, who also fought, tweeting, people have no clue how bad it was. I was lightheaded, super tired in my warm-up. Sunday morning, I went to the hospital and I had to get oxygen with some cortisol because I couldn't breathe. I never felt this tired in my life. I got videos of them opening the roof and more stuff. Crazy. By the way, he lost as well.
Horrible. You hope that they will learn lessons from this for the next time. For me, the unfortunate, like, this is going to sound unsympathetic, but like other people were also in that locker room and also faced the same conditions. So like they won and you lost.
Maybe it was some. Maybe it was some locker rooms that were. MVP said he didn't feel it, so maybe it was bad luck.
But it sounded like Terrence McKinney did feel it, and he won. Yeah. So like I'm, I don't get me wrong. I'm not wishing this upon anybody, and I'm not saying like that they didn't suffer and not perform their best. I feel the same way about this that I felt about like the 5 a.m. UK card, where it's just like everybody was kind of in there, and some people lost and some people won. It is what it is,
Honestly, the initial reaction I had was like, that sucks. But then when I spoke to MVP about it, I was like, oh, well, maybe it wasn't that big of a deal.
If it was one locker room and only those fighters experienced it and the other locker room had that's a different story.
I mean, they probably were in the same locker room, right? They're all teammates.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
It's 5 a.m. in Manchester.
That's what it is.
That's how I feel.
Run it back.
No need.
Gentlemen, what a day. What a day we had here on the program.
KSI versus Dillon Danis?
Yeah.
Wow, there goes Frankie. Let's go.
Sorry. Hey, Frank, how are you? I feel like we didn't really hear from you.
Yeah, well,
What did I say? Hard out 344?
Who knows?
Fuck. Frank, hurry up.
Right on pace.
Ariel, how do you feel about the entire 20,000 people in Crypto Arena singing A minor?
That was messed up, man.
By the way,
you ready for the Super Bowl this weekend?
I'm not watching the Super Bowl.
What was that happening at the same time as? That was happening at the same time as something. When was that? Was that last night?
Sunday night.
It was happening the same time as the Clarissa
Shields.
As
the Clarissa Shields.
Hell yeah, I was locked in on that.
I wanted to drop that in.
Sure. I mean, I was 100% watching
the
that.
The quote, just doing what...
The Grammys. I was definitely watching the
Grammys. Oh, the Grammys. Who cares about the Grammys?
Bickner writes, do you believe superstars are worth more as champions or contenders? I feel if your only superstars are the champions, you lack actual stars.
I would say most people become superstars when they become champions.
Yeah, but this is the point I was trying to make earlier, is like, you need the other people to... Anderson Silva is not Anderson Silva without Chael, And so that is how you become a legend. That is how you become the star. And they aren't... The Chaels aren't there anymore. There are no Chaels.
Okay, yes, but also it's there's a concoction that is needed to make a superstar. And if you look at even the people rising up, I'm struggling to find the next generation.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not talking about the next generation in CFFC and in Cage Warriors. I'm talking about the current roster. There's a process, right? And so at some point, the guys at the top start to fall off and retire, and then there's the new batch. And so we're about to hit that point where the new batch is coming in, and I'm just wondering, who are the superstars among the new batch?
You're telling me that if you take the innovation and uniqueness of a sport completely away and everybody becomes homogenous, that it's harder to make people stand out? That's crazy talk. I don't believe
homogenous. It's a good SAT word.
By the way, this is opening up a whole other can of worms. But again,
344.
You laugh when you hear about freedom of speech and hate speech, yet everyone has to wear the same thing. There are uniforms. By the way, was it freedom of speech, hate speech, or something else when they took away all the flags? When they didn't let some fighters even represent Russia? What did that fall under? It goes back to the point that I made with Pablo Torre a year ago. As long as it doesn't hurt the pocket, as long as it doesn't hurt the bottom line, all of this will be fair game. Once it does, and if it does, then perhaps things will change. And perhaps even then it doesn't change. But that would be the only tipping point. There was that thing with Peloton or something that Dana talked about. Who knows?
Yeah.
But what you will continue to see is this, by him speaking the way he speaks and by him, by media being like, tell us more, Sage One, you will see companies who are struggling, who have maybe hit a controversy, who feel like a certain sector of the society is turning on them, i.e. Bud Light, be like, how do we reverse course? Go here. This is the place to go, right? This is the sport. This is where you will be accepted. This is where everything will be forgotten about. And so even if people jump ship as a result, there are always going to be people saying, no, I want those 18 to 34-year-olds. I want that demographic. I want that fan base. I want those like-minded people to accept us so this can be washed away. And so it will always, I think, cancel each other out. It's if a ESPN or a Netflix, because that's the biggest money out there, the TV rights deals, if those say anything or get bothered by anything, I think that's when it will change. But no one asks those questions. So wait, why does everyone have to wear the same thing? And why couldn't they have flags? And why were certain flags not allowed? And and then there's the Cicerand thing, and on it goes. You could drive yourself crazy doing this stuff. I just think it's funny when you're seeing these Piers Morgan, Tucker Carlson types being like, tell us more how to run a business, how the government should be run. What? Nah, tell us who's fighting next. Tell us who's fighting Ilia Topuria in April. That's what it should always be. And that's the way it used to be. Would you say 344?
Got a few minutes.
Yeah, 344 is my guess.
What else you got? What else? No, I'm done.
Oh, man. I actually think your response to 344 was, no. Physically impossible. We cannot go that late.
And here we are.
Just start taking bets back here.
Here we are.
Where will he hit the hard out? Hard out definition was also for Eric Jackson, the top dog, non-impossible.
I feel you've been good lately. I feel like this is a miss. I don't know where we were going with this
I don't know.
time.
Yeah.
Wow, we were dunking on Jordan's lower third.
Yeah.
It didn't hit. It's all right.
Yeah, that was shit, Jordan.
Yeah.
They've been good. But
it's been a great day, guys.
Fantastic day. We're just getting started.
We are just getting started. That's the beauty of today. Chael P, as always, great to break bread with the bad guy. Scale of 1 to 10, your level of excitement for Tough 33, I think it is.
33 out of 10, baby. 33 out of 10.
Are we doing, we haven't talked about it. Are we doing?
Bang?
Yeah.
I think Frank threw his hat in the ring. He said he wanted to step up.
Ah, fantastic. Frank, who are you?
Why don't we just do It's Tough TUF?
Oh my God!
Yeah, there's a higher chance of Jake Paul knocking out Canelo than there is of me watching a single second.
All I'm saying, who doesn't love a nice summer reality TV show? You get home from the pool.
Oh, you love it. You love it. I love the way you paint that picture. By the way, did you guys notice? Did you guys notice me say to Chael, "Hey, are you gonna have me as a coach?" And then he completely turned it into a pitch for why the Ultimate Fighter is so great.
The roast beef line was.
He wants you to come in and teach them the mental game.
Sure. I'm sure that'll go over very, very well. Thank you to Chael. Thank you to all of you. Thanks to all of them. Back later today, 5 p.m. DAZN Boxing. We'll see you then. And then, of course, tomorrow. Peace.